Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch us. Even though you missed the live party, guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. But hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, head on over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official merch. Where is this coming from? Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. All right, we do also have a free Discord server, which is the sound you just heard. I was already in the after party, but we will get there. It is a free Discord server. Come and join. It is very simple. Even if you don't know what Discord is, we can very quickly teach you how to it's basically just a chat room. And we're in there 24/7 having awesome conversations. But if you become a member of this channel, you can just scroll right below the video and hit that join button. Not only do you get members only live streams, but we also have full access to that Discord community, which includes the after party. As soon as we are done here, we don't have to worry about the YouTube censors. You don't have to worry about stuff behind your keyboard. You were on screen with me and everybody else. It is a good time. You should definitely come join us. Shout out to Harley Rose. Welcome to the party. So this is a big one, guys. This is a big one. I've been thinking a lot about my message and my platform and what it is that I'm trying to do. And I don't know that I think my political positions are pretty clear. And I know that a lot of you that watch are religious. Those are many of you are Christians, and so I try to steer away from the negativity that I personally feel towards that religion. But I'm seeing that's having the opposite effect. And I need to be able to discuss these things and articulate what it is that I actually think. Because when I just try to throw in little jabs here and there when we're talking about politics and the trans or whatever it is, then it doesn't come across properly. So I was kind of struggling with this all weekend, but luckily recently Jordan Peterson, our good Christian friend, we got our co-host joining us. There he is. Don't forget, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. But yes, Jordan Peterson had Alex O'Connor on, who is a atheist philosopher. I was hoping to just see him on Saturday, when he debated Dinesh D'Souza on is the Bible true? And it made me realize that, like, wait a minute, that seems like a very different thing than what I'm doing here. And so this show is going to be a lot more for me than it is for you. But I want to see moving forward how much should religion in general be part of my message, and how much does it matter that I am talking about this, or is it just let's talk about politics and talk about politics? Shout out to the Beavis Frequency. Welcome to the party. Oh, shout out to Dave Smith. Debating the Crucible in 3 days. I'm sure we will cover that. Welcome. But for tonight, we got this one. As always, guys, if you cannot hit the video, please do let me know.
So first of all, thank you for coming here. It's a long way from London. We're in LA, and so that's a long ways. And so, and insofar as you're going to disagree with me, I'm pleased that you're exhausted from the flight, because that'll slow you down and that'll be helpful. So anyways, seriously, thank you for coming. And of course. So let's start with this, Cosmic Skeptic. Right, okay, so how do you come up with the name, and why the conjunction, and what do you think the advantages, if any, in relationship to the emphasis on skepticism?
I normally would think that this is kind of a weak question to start with. It's just like, well, why do you call yourself the Indian Jesus? And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. But, these are two people that, like, everybody knows who Jordan Peterson is. A lot of people know who Alex O'Connor is. But specifically the name, and specifically the way that Jordan Peterson is going about this, is what I really love. And again, if you guys want to watch this without my commentary, the link is in the description below. I talk a lot, and that's why I started a YouTube channel.
I'll give you the official and the unofficial story. The official story is that cosmic sort of implies universe, space, big thinking. And skeptic sort of situates me within a tradition of people who are interested in interrogating their beliefs to their sort of fundamental grounding insofar as that's possible. And skeptic is spelled with a K because most of my listeners are American. The unofficial answer is that when I was younger, I
Wait, do they still spell skeptic with a C in the UK?
knew a guy who was a musician and started a SoundCloud account with the word cosmic in it. And I thought, hey, that sounds like a cool word. And I was starting a YouTube channel and wanted
Shout out to
something that sounds cool.
SoundCloud.
And I thought skeptic sounded cool next to it. And I spelled it with a K because I got it wrong.
I see. Okay. Well, who knows the actual derivation? And it's a good combination, though, because it's catchy, so that's nice from a marketing side. But it also has this. It's an interesting allusion to the combination of revelation and critical thinking that actually makes up actual thinking, right? Because the problem with being concerned with a vast plethora of ideas is that
I hear it both ways. I say plethora. I think plethora sounds better, but people always say plethora. I don't know. How do you guys pronounce it?
Problem with being concerned with a vast plethora of ideas is that many ideas are misleading and wrong. And so you have to learn how to combine that openness and curiosity with the capacity to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
And that's the utility of skepticism. I mean, it can degenerate into a kind of argumentative nihilism. That's the downside. But properly applied, it separates the wheat from the chaff, right? And the purpose.
Shout out to Indie Film. Welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother.
So that is to keep the wheat.
Well, skepticism can only ever be essentially destructive because you're being skeptical of something. Somebody's putting something forward and you're sort of responding to that with skepticism. Right. And so for a lot of people, if skepticism is the thing that you do, then you sort of end up chipping away and ending up with nothing. Whereas skepticism is really supposed to be a tool that you use. It is destructive, but in the way that you might sort of carve a piece of marble.
Yeah,
right. And so he right there, already hitting the nail on the head with the fact that people use skepticism to tear ideas down, but then don't really understand that, like, you need to replace those ideas with something that is relatable. Shout out to S Megma. Welcome to the party. Said definitely plethora, never plethora. I like the way you think. Welcome to the party.
Supposed to be a tool that you use. It is destructive, but in the way that you might sort of carve a piece of marble.
Yeah, right.
You're intending to get a statue out of it.
Yes. Well, that's the thing to always keep in mind is skepticism in the service of something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tool. It's a methodological tool. It's not a world.
You mentioned too, and so I'm interested in your progression in your thinking in relationship to that, because you mentioned just before we actually went on air that had you come to see me a couple of years ago, you might have been more inclined to, I'm putting words in your mouth to some degree, so correct me if I'm wrong, to strive for a victory or to make your point, something like that. And you alluded to the fact that your thinking around that has changed to some degree. I suspect that's probably a consequence of experience. So what's changed?
In part, it might have something to do with becoming a podcaster and speaking weekly to people. And you can't keep up that energy. Or you can, but it becomes totally unwatchable. And
so this is what as soon as I started watching, I mean, this is what 5-6 minutes in. So basically, right at the beginning, I'm realizing how closely this maps on to what I'm going through, and being that I don't necessarily push off the label of debate bro. I think that's kind of a cheap shot of like, oh, well, you can't argue as your points as well as me, so I'm going to just get mad that you're excited, that you are passionate. But, obviously the perception is reality. And when people see you as, oh, you're not interested in real conversations, you're just trying to win, even if that's not the case, perception is reality.
Speaking weekly to people, and you can't keep up that energy. Or you can, but it becomes totally unwatchable, and nobody wants to engage in that all the time. I think there are times when it's worth doing, and to be clear, I still like to disagree and do so essentially unapologetically and bluntly, and that can still come across as quite rude.
And even if it does, we saw, whether, going to Alex's most recent thing on Saturday with Dinesh D'Souza just had nothing for him. And so he didn't really need to go that hard, but he was pretty strong in his rhetoric. But and then, of course, we spent almost 9 hours covering the Dave Smith and Chris Cuomo debate. And, again, for the most part, it was calm volumes. But there's probably that, hey, hold on, you just lied about that kind of stuff. And it does need a balance. There's definitely a reason to have that fire within you. It's just how much.
But I think that the way that I would think about conversation is that, well, what are we about to do here? A debate. We're about to debate an issue, and I'm going to try to win. And that's, and not even, I mean, maybe there's sort of an element of pride in there. You want to win for that sake, but also you really think, well, I want to win because I think I'm right about this. And if I don't, then, you know, I must have just not expressed myself properly. I think what I probably meant when I was saying that is that I would have had more of that cap on than now, after having so many conversations with so many people and realizing that not only is it more constructive for myself, I've learned a lot more. You know, and now I'm here like, hey, I might learn something today. That would be great. Even if I just learn something about what your worldview is. But also people listening just unanimously say that they prefer it. It's a much...
Well, the skepticism. So
just to address that about listening and before he gets on to the audience, I feel personally, again, this is going to be, like I said, this is very much about me. I'm thinking about myself, my channel, my future, whatever, but I want to share it with you guys because I think this is a journey that we're all taking together. And so the idea about learning more and listening, personally, I feel like, again, when I went back to the Christian Watson debate, I had in my mind that because there was points at which where I was raising my voice, that I hadn't given him the chance to listen and I was being unfair. But then looking back, the first, 20 minutes, I didn't say anything. I had maybe 5 minutes of speaking time the entire time before he rage quit. And so that's not fair. He didn't rage quit. He said he would give us 2 hours and he gave us 2 hours. Let's be fair. But the problem is that I feel like I come with that energy and then that energy is not matched. And then the energy is raised by the other party. And then when I match that energy, now I'm the angry one. That's my perception of it. And, obviously my perception is my perception. But I mean, clearly, even in my own mind, when I was like, oh, I should have been nicer to Christian, then I went back and I was as nice as could be. And so I'm even at the same time, I'm saying, hey, I'm trying to do this right, but other people are not. And I'm still giving them more credit than myself. And so, I don't know about all that, but we'll see. I said the goal shouldn't be to win. It should be to share ideas with each other. The debate culture has come out strong over that, though. Well, and I mean, as he said, Alex said, I think as long as you're not going in, like you said, the goal shouldn't be to win. I don't think there's any issue with getting animated. If you are there in bad faith, if you are there to try to win, that's what I mean, unless you're specifically doing a debate on trying to win. But a podcast like this, a conversation like this, if you're going in to win, yes, I agree. That's bad. But I don't think that is fair to whether it's myself or somebody like Destiny. That when, you can have calm conversations, but then somebody else is going to say something out of pocket. And then I'm ready to go, whoa. And now I'm the bad guy. What? Like, I don't know. But that's what I am hoping to work out through the course of tonight. Shout out to Ian Hartman. Welcome. I've never found a real Christian. Everybody says everybody else is not a real Christian. And so that's why, with Ayan Hersey Ali becoming a Christian and Richard Dawkins being a cultural Christian and with a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, maybe I am a Christian. I'm just a Christian that doesn't believe in God. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need to stop fighting Christianity because I am a Christian. I just don't believe in all of the parts. You guys don't believe in all the parts. So why am I any different? Maybe. I don't know. Shout out to Guam Ted. Welcome to the party. So I have a feeling you have some strong opinions on this one. Yes, I do. I had already listened to most of this in the car. But as I was saying before you got here, this is very, very closely mapping onto, my personal place in what I'm doing on the internet. Am I a religion guy? Am I a politics guy? Am I a mix of both? Am I more of one and the other? What is it? What am I doing here? Because I don't feel like, some of the conversations I've had recently, I'm not sure that people are understanding what I want to say, and that's nobody else's fault but my own. So we will see. So
people listening just unanimously say that they prefer it. It's a much...
Well, the skepticism. So one of the things you learn as a therapist, for example, is that...
I disagree with that. I mean, the idea that I mean, obviously he's got a much bigger platform, Alex, but the idea that people overwhelmingly prefer these calm conversations, maybe at this level, sure, because you're getting into the actual upper echelon ideas that you don't see every day. But I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart. And so it doesn't mean that my message is invalid. But if I don't have the words to explain what I have to say, and I'm going to kneecap myself just to keep a tone of voice, that seems counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. Honestly, people care way too much about the Christian label. All these words can mean everything or nothing depending on the person and the listener. The listener, exactly. So maybe I'm just a secular Christian. It says human secularism can't win any ground among normal people when it fully embraces modern gender pseudoscience. Can't disagree with you there. I mean, I think that is the dogmatic aspect of secular humanism, which is why it doesn't work. That is precisely it. But that's what, and the other thing is maybe my goal of creating this moral, secular moral structure, like, yes, that is what I'm doing, but maybe that's not ready for you guys yet. Maybe that's something I still need to be working on and figuring out so that when I say it, it means something. Because it seems like whenever I say it, it doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Right. It's a much...
Well, the skepticism. So one of the things you learn as a therapist, for example, is that being right is not very helpful, especially when you're trying to help someone, because whether you as the therapist is right has very little to do with the positive outcome for them. Mm-hmm. You still want to maintain the skepticism. And one of the ways of doing that in the manner that's helpful is that, like, if I'm talking to you and you say something I don't understand, that's the right place to be skeptical, because if I don't understand what you said, well, it might be my ignorance, but it also might be like lack of clarity and pointedness on your part. And so one of the advantages of disagreeing with someone is to point out to them in a positive way where they're lost in the fog. Because if you're sufficiently lost in the fog, you tend to run into sharp objects, and that's not very pleasant.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Guantek said here for a second. He said, honestly, people care way too much about the Christian label. All these words can mean everything or nothing, and it should be kept to you and God. This is obviously, I agree with you. So, I agree with you. Obviously, I agree with you. But the problem is when I'm trying to keep it to myself, like, okay, I just believe these things for a different reason. You believe them because of Christianity. I believe them for a different reason. And then I'm attacked for not having the right basis. That's where it comes from. My personal experience. Shout out to Lee Man. Welcome. Said, I voted yes. We have a poll going. Can you be a Christian if you don't believe in God? And Lee Man says, yes, because you can lie even to yourself. All right, fair enough. Welcome. We also got AIM in the building. So it's easy. It's just as easy to say you believe in Christian values, but you don't practice Christianity. Sure, but that's a very incomplete description of my worldview, which is exactly the point. That's exactly the point.
Because if you're sufficiently lost in the fog, you tend to run into sharp objects, and that's not very pleasant.
Hey, shout out Arjun. Welcome. And we also got Brad. See, welcome to the party. And I feel like a very lonely conservative skeptic atheist. Glad I found your channel, and I'm glad you're here. Because I feel the same way. And so this is why I need to determine if this is more of the thing than just, hey, look what happened in the news today. Then things might need to change. But maybe there's a way to keep it all together. I don't know. We'll see. But welcome to the party. Well, next to the people doing the attacking are more concerned with pushing their ideas than learning or appreciating the small wins between the two of you. Sometimes it's easiest to say that some people suck. Again, agreed. But if all the people, there's a mosquito in here. Gotcha, bitch. Look at that. Gotcha. Got him. Again, I have this already. I'm already in the position of, wanting to put that aside and focus on what really matters. It's when other people don't and demand that I'm a Christian or my position doesn't matter. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to deal with that. That's what I am struggling with. No, we kind of just started. We didn't really get anywhere yet. You're good. You're good. Shout out to Tara Spence. Welcome to the party. Said, I'm Christian and don't believe the Bible is God's word. The Holy Spirit is our connection. Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, I mean, all this stuff. Maybe I'm just a secular Christian. Welcome to the party.
Because if you're sufficiently lost in the fog, you tend to run into sharp objects, and that's not very pleasant. So, but the skepticism, and this is obviously what you alluded to, I would say, as a consequence of learning from the podcast, is the skepticism should be in service of rectifying your ignorance rather than in service of making your point or winning the argument.
Yes.
Problem with winning a bloody argument is that the victory can seduce you into thinking that you were correct, and you're never sufficiently correct. Right?
Yes.
And so I don't like debates fundamentally. I've never really enjoyed them. I probably, when I was really young, before I stopped doing this when I was about 23, I would take a certain amount of pleasure.
See, the problem is, Gonzo, you say you deal with the same way with the wokies, but if I tell the wokies to F off, I don't care. Because I'm not trying to appeal to them. I'm not trying to get in their group. I'm not trying to get support from them. I'm not trying to get viewership from them. I'm not trying to get money from them. That's not the same thing with the conservative movement. Right now, yeah, in the future, then I'm going to be of the position of trying to bring people onto more of my way of thinking. But I'm still at the point of bringing that platform to a place where it should and could attract people. Shit. Well, we'll give Morty the treat anyway. Fuck you, YouTube. I don't know what's going on. That's never happened before. But welcome to the party. Very, very, very much appreciated. Don't forget, guys, you can also hit me through Venmo, and YouTube ain't taking shit. But either way, very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Or I stopped doing this when I was about 23. I would take a certain amount of pleasure in being able to obtain intellectual victory. It was also a way I defended myself when I was young, and it was effective, but it's not the optimal way to conduct a conversation. This is one of the reasons why people like Rogan are so successful, because Joe will push his point, but he always does it in the service of learning.
Yes.
He doesn't do it in the service of victory.
Yeah. I think you've probably put your finger on it there. But what you were saying a moment ago about precision.
Wait, didn't Jordan Peterson state what does the word do mean? Probably. This is the same person who had two 4-hour conversations about what is truth, not what is true, what is truth. And I think it's important to when you're having these philosophical discussions on a philosophical playing field to get those discussions. My issue is that I think, and Alex brings this up, but I think Jordan Peterson and others will kind of mix the two and kind of turn to talk about, well, I'm just talking mythologically and metaphysically when it's convenient, and then, oh no, actually this is historical reality, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. But the militant Christians can only be blind to the winds for so long. At a certain point, others will understand that their beliefs don't align with their actions, and you're actually a benefit. And again, what you said to me about, hey, dude, just you're right. Let it play out. That's what, okay, again, I'll just call myself a secular Christian until everybody realizes I've been right the entire time, and then I'll have all the right answers.
Put your finger on it there. But what you were saying a moment ago about precision, about sort of thinking clearly and understanding somebody else clearly, I think the reason why I'm excited to speak to you today is because you're someone who celebrates being precise in your speech. Mm-hmm. And I've always appreciated your desire to make sure that you're really understanding what somebody else is saying. I've made attempts in the past my channel is mostly focused on the philosophy of religion.
Yes.
And I've made attempts in the past to try to understand your worldview.
Yeah.
Your religious worldview. And I made a video essay. And some of the things I said there, I think, at least one thing in particular, I'd probably think I was wrong about. But what I was trying to do there, I've seen that people would ask you on interviews and podcasts, do you believe in God? Do you think that Christianity is true? And it was sort of, you would sort of struggle to answer the question.
That's what you're talking about. Where is it? Where'd it go? Yeah, and the word "do," the word "truth." All of these words are very hard to define. If you are talking about, okay, well, actually, what is truth in that conversation? But when you're just talking to another person about, is this true? To act as if you don't know what that means, or what does this do? To act as if you don't understand what they're asking seems purposely obtuse and I don't know what the word is, but just just to obfuscate and despite the exact opposite of what he was saying before. And contact again, if this was just about having conversations and living my life and voting as a normal person, I would completely agree with you. But I'm trying to build something here. So I need something from those Christians. I need their attention. I need their grace to understand that, okay, I don't believe the same things you do, but as you said, I am an asset to what you want for this society. And so, again, if it was just about, feeling how I want to feel, then you'd be absolutely right. It would be a complete non-issue. But the problem is I'm trying to build something and I need something from those militant Christians. That's the problem.
It's true. And it was sort of, you would sort of struggle to answer the question.
Well, again, if we are talking about I'm sure, again, he's smart enough to figure out a way where you could use the word "do" in a way that doesn't align with the common parlance of the process of an object or whatever you want to say. But yeah, it's context. The context. Are we just having a normal conversation, or are we digging into the epistemology of words?
True. And it was sort of, you would sort of struggle to answer the question. And I thought to myself, well,
people come at the question with a priori commitments about what they think truth constitutes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is how we have conversations. We have an axiomatic idea that truth means something that exists. Now, again, we absolutely can get into the annals of philosophy to decide, well, okay, well, in what manner? But if somebody says, you guys just saw Morty jump up onto my lap and you haven't seen him crawl out, you're ruining my example. So you just saw Morty jump off my lap. So if I say, is it true that Morty is sitting on my lap right now? No, there's no question about that. There's no question. But I feel like what Alex is talking about, this is exactly what he does.
It was sort of, you would sort of struggle to answer the question. And I thought to myself, well,
people come at the question with a priori commitments about what they think truth constitutes.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
There must be something important that's being left out of the sort of precondition of that question or conversation. If it's so unimaginably difficult to answer,
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you on, again, in terms of having conversations and understanding. But again, this is not just the conversation itself; it's the conversation in the context of politics. And so, when hungry dance already, damn. When when Hinduism starts showing up in legislation, then yeah. When Sharia law starts showing up in legislation, then yeah. But those aren't there. So that's not relevant. Even though the point is the same, the dogma is not being used in our politics. So it isn't relevant. And so, but you are right. If you are right. If I want to get in with the Christians, first thing I suggest is to start focusing more on your theistic criticism and other theologies. So then that changes entirely what this channel is. That changes entirely what this channel is. And I don't know that I don't think I want to do that. So I don't know. Well, let's see.
That question or conversation, if it's so unimaginably difficult to answer,
Well, I'll give you an example. I watched that essay this morning, right? And I also wanted to talk to you about your discussion with Dawkins.
Yeah.
So people ask me,
what are the tenets of Judaism that is relevant in this bill?
For example, do you believe in God? And I think, well, I don't know what you are driving at with that question.
Me neither. I said shit. Me too.
Discussion with Dawkins.
Yeah.
So people ask me, for example, do you believe in God? And I think, well, I don't know what you are driving at with that question.
That's why all the time I tell you guys that God is very, very, very bad at being a word. The purpose of a word is to take the thoughts in my mind and put them into your mind. If I ask you, do you believe in God? And you say yes, how do you know that that my God, my definition of the word God is the same as your definition of the word God? Even if you ask another Christian, how do you know? Oh, Jesus.
Do you believe in God? And I think, well, I don't know what you are driving at with that question, because I don't know what you mean by believe. Most people, modern people, believe that a belief is a description of accordance.
Right. That's why I focus on Christianity.
With a set of facts.
Sure.
Right. Well, I don't.
Let's hear that again.
A belief is a description of accordance with a set of facts.
Sure.
Right. Well, I don't think that's what belief means in the religious sense in the least. So I just think that's a non-starter.
If you have something to do with what you act out, right?
It has to do with what you believe is what you're willing to die for. Fundamentally, it's what you're committed to or live for. If you think about it as life in the most extensive manner, it's a matter of commitment.
So I understand what you mean in the religious context.
Yeah.
So, but religion is a big topic. Religion is a mighty area to be talking about.
Well, I'm a Christian that doesn't believe in a creator.
But when I talk about belief in a more mundane sense, like I believe that this chair exists.
Yeah.
Like that is a belief that I hold. I sort of can't help but hold that belief because I can see it. Right?
Well, that's a place where your action and your statements align.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is
you
why,
believe in the chair and you're sitting in it. It's like fair enough.
Which is why I totally agree when you say that what you believe might really be what you act out. Mm-hmm. But I think when people are looking for essentially definitions, and just a second ago you said, well, what is it to believe? And you said, well, what you believe is what you're willing to die for. Yeah. I'm not willing to die for my belief that this chair exists.
Maybe
in a broad sense. If
I mean, that's an interesting one. We'll come back to that. I mean, it's definitely not about doing anything wrong. Like it's not about doing anything wrong, like immoral. It's much more about doing what is best for my message to be propagated, because I think that is what is best for society. And so I'm not saying I'm gonna, it's not like tomorrow all of a sudden I'm gonna be like, okay, guys, we're gonna dive into Hegel and we're never gonna talk about Trump. That's not happening. That's not happening. If anything at all, it will be small changes that I will make to make sure that the show that you guys come to expect is that show. And you guys always have input and stuff, but like you're saying, at the end of the day, it is a matter of being the true north. And I'm not a channel for everybody. I'm not a channel for all Christians or all conservatives or all anybody, or certainly not all atheists. and so I'm just again thinking out loud and sharing it with you guys as my the lens through which I am viewing this, because I think this could not be more relevant to some of the conversations we've had recently.
Willing to die for my belief that this chair exists, believe what you act out. Mm-hmm. But I think when people are looking for essentially definitions, and just a second ago you said, well, what is it to believe? And you said, well, what you believe is what you're willing to die for. Yeah. I'm not willing to die for my belief that this chair exists.
So that's an interesting, and he stops himself. He's like, well, I mean, it depends. If somebody was going to say, I'm going to end you if you don't say that this is not a chair, because reasons, then I could see somebody be like, no, I have an obligation to reality and truth, and ooh, I like that. We are starring that. But yeah, truth does matter. And so that's why he stopped himself.
And you said, well, what you believe is what you're willing to die for. Yeah. I'm not willing to die for my belief that this chair exists.
Yup. You are absolutely right. But again, I don't care as much about them because I don't want to get in with them. I'm very aware that I'm not going to convince those people that I have good ideas. That's just not likely to happen, even though we are both atheists. So again, that's where it comes in. Hey, shout out to the Plunge Cast. Welcome to the party. Morning, come on up. Welcome. Yummy. Thank you, Plungecast, and that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Welcome. So Gen Xer here, who spent over 15 years in religious organizations. So are you still in religion? Are you no longer in religion? Where do you stand? Welcome.
What you believe is what you're willing to die for.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to die for my belief that this chair exists.
Maybe.
Maybe in a broad sense. If not
Hard to
believing,
say,
if not
but
believing that the chair existed required me to sort of give up my trust in my sense data,
Right.
then I might literally die by accident by sort of walking off a cliff because I don't trust my eyes anymore. So it's
Well, it's
true in that
also not
sense.
something that you're likely to forego given your role, let's say, as a rational skeptic.
That's right.
Seriously, like it's a commitment that you've made to a certain view of reality.
But you understand surely that when somebody asks, do you believe in God? Although they're asking the sort of subject of the belief is a much more grand entity.
Yes, you do know that, Jordan, but you choose to be more pedantic about it.
The word belief itself, for them, at least in their question, even if you think it's an inappropriate question, they mean something much more mundane. They mean like you believe in the existence
it's
of a
hard
chair.
to know. It's hard to know what people mean. You know, like one of the things I've noticed, for example, is there are no shortage of Christian trolls, right? I mean, there are atheist trolls and there's engineering trolls. There's lots.
I mean, yeah, everybody's got trolls. So Punch Class said, walked away in 2004. Dilly to that. Very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do. And, if you can be a good person and not a leftist after losing a worldview that is all encompassing like that, that is amazing. Amazing. Shout out to M169. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. Good to see you. And yeah, that's exactly. All right. Did we already say hi to Amber? Welcome. Even if not, you get a second one. Hello.
Christian trolls, right? I mean, there are atheist trolls and there's engineering trolls. There's lots of trolls, but there are Christian trolls. And the Christian trolls, when they ask that question, and it's often the Christian trolls who ask that question, what they mean is, are you in my club?
Exactly.
Right. And my answer is, I'm not even sure you know what club you're in. So there's a trap in the question, which I don't appreciate because
I don't think you know what club you're in. Is he wrong?
Are you in my club?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, actually, wait, one back.
Trolls who ask that question,
When they ask the question, do you believe in God?
They mean is, are you in my club?
Exactly.
Right. And my answer is, I'm not even sure you know what club you're in.
And so when I hear that, what I think it means is exactly what I talk about all the time, that you can have your idea of God and your idea of your interpretation of the Bible and the sermons that you hear and whatever. But that's not real. That's a club of one. That's a club of one. Because you assume, not again, the general you, assume that everybody else believes the same thing. And that's just not how it is.
So there's a trap in the question, which I don't appreciate because I don't like questions that have traps in them.
Yes.
Now, not everybody who's asking that question has a trap, but many people do. And so I find that off-putting, let's say, because it's manipulative. In terms of that descriptive belief, that's something we could go into. I think we should do that because it does.
Shout out to Climate Drive. Google it.
Does get to the core of the matter that you were attempting to untangle, let's say, in your essay.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of and I had to sort of piece together different things you'd said in different interviews. And I suppose the reason I had to do that was because I didn't have you in front of me. So I'm grateful to have the opportunity now. It seems to me that when you speak of God, you mean something like that which is at the, I don't know if you'd rather say the basis or the top, but the basis or the top.
Both metaphors.
Of a value hierarchy. And it begins with the recognition that anything that anybody does requires some kind of value, even just to do something as simple as sitting in a chair or picking up a glass.
Well, you don't do anything without it being oriented towards a value.
Exactly, right. And so even to perceive the glass is something you've spoken about before. You know, why do I see the glass as one object, even though it's got multiple?
Who was who? What are you talking about? The last thing he said was Sky Daddy. You're talking about Clombadrov? Just Google Clombadrov. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, I got you. Brad says it's hard to know. It's hard to know how Jordan thought that jacket was a good idea. Hey, I completely disagree. Jordan rocks the Power Clash suits. He does it so well. The only person that I regularly see that is better dressed than Jordan Peterson is Bruce Buffer.
To perceive the glass. It's something you've spoken about.
Do anything without it being oriented towards a value.
Exactly, right. And so even to perceive the glass is something you've spoken about before. You know, why do I see the glass as one object? Even though it's got multiple parts, it's got a side and a bottom and a top. I see them together in a way that I don't see the cup and the table as one object. Well, you said before, it's because I can grip it. It's sort of functional. It's because I can use this cup. And the reason that I see it in that way is because I can then drink from it. And the reason that I want to do that is because I sort of value my health. And there's sort of a value regress that goes on.
Always.
And more broadly, this comes out in the question of, like, you know, why you're writing an essay to get a good grade, or why do you want a good grade to get a good job? Why do you want a good job to get money? And you keep going back and back. It has to terminate somewhere.
That's right.
Because otherwise there would be nothing to sort of lend that value.
Well, otherwise you'd always be in an infinite regress.
Further down,
right? You just die of questioning.
Yeah.
See, and when you say the infinite regress, I don't think God stops the regress except for rhetorically. But I'm a goodwill atheist willing to have that explained.
You literally, it's the kind of regress in which the value that you have for A actually borrows.
Yes, good. Oh, deep cut. Deep cut. I'm not saying that word. From Magma. Deep cut. Deep cut.
From B. You don't value A at all without B. So it doesn't get it without B. And B doesn't get it without C. And C doesn't get it without D. So if that went on infinitely, there's nothing to give the entire sequence value in the first place.
Right.
And so there's got to be something at the basis here. And then you said, at least on one occasion, that we'll call that place, whatever's at the top there, we'll call it the divine place.
Yeah,
and you said we'll make that
a matter of definition. Yeah.
Now, I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that what you're doing is you're giving a definition of God that makes him
partial definition,
or makes it him, whatever, unavoidably exist, and also makes it a quite different entity to the entity described by a great deal of, for instance, your Christian listeners, who will say that God is not the basis of a value hierarchy. God is an omnipotent, omniscient, agential being with consciousness that intentionally brings about human beings and sent down a physical man to sacrifice his life in order to save us from our sins. Now,
so when somebody asks, did that happen? Is that true? Then the answer of, well, it makes sense and it has purpose. Okay, great. That's not the question I asked you.
That means that when someone asks you, does God exist? And you say, well, look, I think that's almost an inappropriate question. At times you sort of imply that you don't even believe in atheists because you sort of act as if you believe in God.
See, he doesn't. I mean, there we go. Secular Christian.
What you mean by God is just...
Well, Dawkins himself admitted he was a cultural Christian.
That's another matter, because that's much more specific. I mean, that's cultural Christianity, right? This is just...
But it's a reflection of the same problem.
I wonder, because when he says cultural Christian, all he means is that he was brought up in he was brought up in a world or a country that was mostly Christian, and so the traditions that he follows are very, like, he celebrates Christmas and Easter and stuff like that. If it is just as simple as saying cultural, I think that, there are the times where I'm going to want to say, okay, let's actually discuss the truth claims of your religion or your faith or whatever it is. But in a political context, if just putting the word cultural in front of the word Christian changes the perception of what I'm saying, coming from, an atheist as just coming from Lutch. Again, I don't see why that's a problem. Somebody who was born in the church and grew up in the church and was confirmed in the church, even after I left the faith, still felt that there was a sacredness to the idea of any religion. But if that's not the case, then what am I doing?
That's another matter, because that's much more specific. I mean, that's cultural Christianity, right? This is just this. But
it's a reflection of the same problem.
But when a Christian says to you,
well, what do you? Are you agreeing? Or are you just saying? Because this is what Jordan is trying to say. Is it true? Can just be replaced with does it have value? But these are clearly two very different questions. Punchcast said, someone with a Christian background who knows God exists, but not a believer or follower would fit my definition. Fair enough. Fair enough. Truth is such boomer talk anyway. Yeah, fucking boomers. There's no truth but power.
Right? This is just this. But
it's a reflection of the same problem.
But when a Christian says to you, I'm being very clear that that's what I mean by God. I don't know if you do believe in the omniscient, omnipotent, agential being, but if you start talking about the inevitability of believing in some basis of a value
Well, it's
hierarchy,
not so obvious.
you're talking
It's
about
not
something
so
different to them.
obvious from the traditional Judeo-Christian perspective that God is properly conceptualized as a being.
That's
So,
probably right
well,
too.
so it's tricky, right? Because one of the ways that you can approach God traditionally is in relationship to a being, but that's a veil. So why do I say that? Okay, so let's speak about it religiously first, then we can speak about it conceptually. So there's a tremendous insistence in the Judeo-Christian tradition that God is outside of the categorical structure.
I mean, it wouldn't be exactly. The only thing here is, definitely a Christian background. I think maybe something like what would be considered a God exists, but I don't think that a Yahweh or a theistic God exists. So slightly different, but that's the point. That's exactly the point. All of this are slightly different iterations of we want good stuff. We want people to be good. We don't want people to be bad.
In the Judeo-Christian tradition, that God is outside of the categorical structure, right? Like seriously outside. Elijah, the prophet, establishes that God is not in nature. He's not in the earthquake. He's not in the conflagration. He's not in the storm, right? So that doesn't mean that nature doesn't speak of God, but it does mean that whatever God is not in the natural world. Okay, now we can...
and that's fine. But then when we say exist, then you have to, without qualifying all of that, then you have to say no. You have to say no. You can qualify. Again, you can qualify it as much as you want, but at the end of the day, the purpose of the question is to determine whether you think there's a physical being that exists that is called God. And the answer is no. The answer is no. Shout out to Bryson. Welcome to the party. So truth or honesty, and are they different? Good question. So truth and honesty, I think they're two sides of the same coin, in the sense that truth is a fact, or truth is like it is what it is. Honesty is a relationship with that truth, I would say.
Extend that, not, but it does mean that whatever God is not in the natural world. Okay, now we can extend that. Not bound by time, not bound by space. Well, does that make God a material object? Because when people say, is God real, which is a variant of the question, is do you believe in God? It's like, well, God's immaterial and outside of time and space.
Okay, great. So you don't believe that a physical God exists. I wonder, and we now have, I mean, okay, it was only the six of you, but most of you said no. If you ask the random person on the street who knows of Jordan Peterson but has never really listened, he's wearing a goddamn Jesus jacket. If you ask most people, does he believe in God? They would say yes. And that is a problem. We need to know what we're talking about when we're talking about anything.
Question is, do you believe in God? It's like, well, God's immaterial and outside of time and space. So if your definition of real is material things in the domain of time and space, then we're not talking about the same thing.
Right. And again, Godlike says, though, if asking God exists is honestly a dead question, the value of the question of value really hits at the point of the relationship between God and man. We can't measure God yet, so why keep asking? Because people keep saying we should do this because of God. That's the only background to all. That's the only reason this matters. If it's just something that you believe in and it's completely sequestered from political life, then I then lose any relevant, or I lose any ground of having a reason to question you about what you believe. But when you're saying, oh, well, I believe this, therefore you have to do that. Well, it's like, wait a minute. What is this? Well, it's just values and truths and this and that. You can't do politics like that. You can live your life like that, sure. I hope most of you do. But you can't live your life like that. Or, I mean, you can't do politics like that. Brad said, until the proposition is proven that anything exists outside the natural world, then the answer is no until more evidence is provided. And again, then you can talk about the mythological value of the stories. You can talk about the value of building a relationship with that which is outside of you. But that's a different thing. And my whole point is that we can't get there. We can't get to the perfect version that maybe humans will never. Context said we can't measure God yet. Maybe we will be able to measure God, and maybe we will not be able to measure God. But maintaining that God is immeasurable without any material proof of that is preventing us from getting any closer than we already are. And I don't know if you've looked at the country lately. Not very close to God in most parts. For better or worse, it is what it is. Yeah, and those should be people, and those people should be trained to answer the value question outside of the belief to be taken seriously. Again, it's on them at that point, right? It is on them, but when I bring that up,
how dare you?
I don't get the best. Ian said communicating with a nihilist can be extremely difficult. Yeah, it can, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no value in it. And most things that have great value have difficulty. Hey, shout out to Mercy Choke. Welcome to the party. So Jordan Peterson is a clinical psychologist. I am also. That said, it's my opinion that he attempts to psychologize the concept of God. The Bible is allegorical and metaphorical to him. He believes in the lessons. Bingo. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. And again, my issue is not that he thinks this way or that other people think the way that they do. It's that there's a miscommunication that you're saying A. Let's say that Jordan Peterson's version of this is A, and the average person who believes that there is a conscious theistic being in the in somewhere in the universe or outside of the universe that can reach into the whatever. Those are two different claims. Those are two different things. Thank you, Preston. So I wouldn't be using the current state of the nation as an example of why removing God is. I didn't say it was a good thing. For better or worse means whether it's good or whether it's bad. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, would you agree that the country is not very close to God right now as a whole? That is my point. I didn't say it was a good thing. I said for better or worse. Exactly. So you agree.
Material things in the domain of time and space, then we're not talking about the same thing. Now, usually people approach that question of belief with some materialistic framework like that in mind, even if they don't know it.
Yes.
The Christians,
Mercy gets it.
let's say,
Mercy gets it.
Who put this question forward in the hope of getting the answer they want to hear, are materialistic and enlightenment minds, even though they don't know it.
Sure, yes. Now let's go with the insane. I would agree. The country's as far from God as it's ever been. Okay, so if Christianity itself, again, we're talking about God. So Christianity itself is not an option for people like myself and people who are too dumb to even try. Then what is a better option? To just let them destroy the country, or to find a better way, find an avenue for those people, for people like me, to get close to this God, whatever it may be? That's exactly my point. Should I agree with Mercy? This is why the church has lost. It's trying to be all the things, all things, everything. Thus watering down the Bible's message, especially Paul's letters and the New Testament. Yep, and not even in touch with their own identities, and that's why there's such a almost a feeling of obligation to cling to something that is going to be that identity. On the right, it's a religion. On the left, it's trans and whatever. Obviously, I'm simplifying that, but again, this is my point in that it's the same mentality. It's the same mentality. And if you have, I don't understand how you can have an issue with the logic of trans ideology. The logic, not the conclusions, the logic. When you use the same one, if you're a Christian, just for a different thing. Brett says the biggest problem with all religions is that they want you to be good to avoid punishment instead of just being a good person. We need more good people that want to be good on their own accord. I agree. I mean, and yeah, and so when the religion creates this value proposition, then it weakens the value of the good acts. And so I would say that most Christians are not in it for like hey, I'm going to get into heaven, so I'm going to do this. I would argue that the most Christians that I know are good people, as anybody would describe. And it's just that Christianity happens to be the vehicle for which they carry around their moral structure. Again, the problem is that not everybody can have that, or can go down that avenue. Shout out to the round table. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So it sounds like y'all weren't real atheists if you're a Christian. I don't know. What's an atheist anymore? I don't know what these words mean. I don't know what truth means. I don't know what God means. I don't know what, all I know is that people who act like the Christians seem to be more in line with how I act than people who act like atheists, even though I am myself an atheist. So I guess that makes me a cultural Christian, according to how people are using words these days. Don't know. Hey, welcome back, Stephanie. Good to see ya. Good to see ya. Did I leave anything off here? Ian said, I wouldn't say more godlessness is going to make it better. Especially given the fact that more godlessness so far has only made things worse. You ever heard the phrase, it's always the darkest before the dawn? So yes, the Yahweh gets it here. Let's say this is put my hand right off the screen. Let's say humanity will never, ever, 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 ever be able to reach God. Let's just assume that that's a reality. God is here. So believing in the Bible, believing in Christianity, believing in Yahweh gets us here. We're lowly humans, but what if we need a period of godlessness to discover, oh, okay, it's not actually Yahweh, it's this, and we get up to here. Until you can tell me that that is not the case, then I don't know why we are not looking for that option. I don't get it. Hey, shout out to the Funk Master General. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for my co-host, Morty. Thank you so very much. And of course, that makes you the new co-sponsor of the stream. Guys, if you got a membership gifted, make sure you join the Discord server. That gives you access to the full thing, including the after party. Thank you so very, very much.
Are materialistic and enlightenment minds, even though they don't know it, because they have an implicit definition of what constitutes real. Is God real? It's like, no, God's hyper real. That's not the same thing.
I think,
and again, like, okay, I'm willing to accept that. What does hyper real mean?
the physicality of God is an interesting question.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament tradition, it seems to evolve as far as I can see. If you look at some of the earlier descriptions of God, you've got a God who walks through the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
You've got a God who has a council of angels and the accuser. You have a sort of, it's being at least conceptualized as a much more physical being.
Nope. I talked to him directly, and he thinks that's all bullshit. Oops.
And as time goes on, God becomes less localized. And I've heard a lot of theories as to why that's the case. I've just done an episode on my own show.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yes, Ian, that was a theoretical based on something that's never happened. It's almost like 2 days ago, we could have been talking about what would have happened if Trump got arrested or found guilty. So only things that have happened before can happen. That's what you're saying? Again, this is the lack of your need to be right about this. Your need to be right about this. Now I'm matching that energy. And I'm going to be the one that's like, oh, whoa, okay, well, This is my point. You're proving me right again.
Less localized. And I've heard a lot of theories as to why that's the case. I've just done an episode on my own show.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. Exactly. I don't think there's a clear historical progression like that. There is a constant tension between God as ineffable and then God as manifest in a manner that's comprehensible, right? And Mircea Eliade had mapped the consequences of this out to some degree. So he was very interested in Nietzsche's proposition that God had died. most people, including Nietzsche, regarded that as.
Oh, I was gonna hit the applause button, but I didn't get there. Well, we'll back it up. So Mercy said, "Have you read the Bible, both testaments?" Yes, because organized religion is man-made. Unfortunately, the same fallen men who destroyed religious institutions also managed to destroy the faith. The living off the blessings are forefathers in the Western world. So yes, like I said, I was born into the Catholic Church. I was confirmed. I was in the Catholic Church until like middle schoolish, and then my family had moved to a Methodist church. I was confirmed in the Methodist church, and because the Methodist church was a bit more fun and less Christian, I liked it more. And so I was like, okay, now that this is fun, it's not just something that I have to do on Sunday morning with, oh, there was a youth group. There was stuff to get me interested in the values of Christianity, which I think is a good thing. But then I was like, okay, I like this stuff. I want to look more. And I've been a Christian my entire life, but I've never read the Bible start to finish. And so I did. And did not really like what I saw. And so, you know, there's absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful passages in the Bible, but there's also other stuff too. There's also other stuff too. How many times have you talked to him? How many times have you asked him directly to his face? 0? Because I asked him to his face, not online, not through a camera. I was here, and he was here. I said, what do you think about trans stuff? I don't know if I was the exact word, but we were having that conversation. You're asking about an anecdotal thing.
Had died.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, including Nietzsche, regarded that as like a unique historical event. There was a religious tradition, the Enlightenment arose, in consequence, we became skeptical about God, and in 1850, the philosophers decided that he was no longer necessary or real.
Agreed. Shout out to Tyler Wooden. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Said God is always right, and just as his love, he has justice too. So he was right when he said that you should beat your slaves, or Jesus said that. So Jesus said that wasn't right, or what are we doing then?
And in 1850, the philosophers decided that.
What? Yeah, I had a camera in his face. Like, hey, man, I want to talk to you like a real person. Okay.
We became skeptical about God. And in 1850, the philosophers decided that he was no longer necessary or real. But Eliade, who is a brilliant historian of religions, has noted that this has happened many, many times, that God has vanished, disappeared. Mm-hmm. And one of his explanations for that is that a God that's too ineffable, so that's completely outside of the categories of time and space, let's say, and who doesn't make himself present as a being, who doesn't have a heavenly council, who has no hierarchy between the pinnacle and earth itself, tends to float.
I'm sorry. I really wanted to let it go, and we will. Ian, if you don't drop this, I'm going to time you out because I'm not good at doing it myself. So you think that you know me better than the neighbor who I've talked to for less time than you've seen me on this screen. Think about that for a second. You're not saying anything. Yes, Plungecast. Shout out to the Funk Master General. You are now a member. Make sure if you're not already, in the YouTube, in the Discord, send me a DM so that I can make sure you get the permissions for the after party. I didn't say I know you better. No, but you're saying that you're based on somebody's content. You know them better than me directly asking them the question and hearing the answer. Okay, bro. You know better than me. Okay. Taylor said the Bible is written against all of man's desires. And remember, it is not modern. It was written in a time of different cultures and not all in the same culture. Oh, so God didn't know that we were going to be against slavery. Gotcha.
So who has no hierarchy between the pinnacle and earth itself, tends to float off into space. It becomes so abstract that you can't have a relationship with it, and then he disappears.
In many ways, this is what Christianity provides with the New Testament and the figure of Jesus. That's why I think for a lot of Christians, the more important question for you and the question that they're interested in. And you're quite right that a lot of people are like, I want to get you on my team.
Yeah.
I have no dog in this fight. I'm not
not in Exodus, he's not
a Christian.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of Christians are frustrated when they begin asking about Jesus, who's a much more physical entity. Right? It's a real human being. It's someone of flesh and blood. It's someone who's physically crucified by the Romans.
It's a very different question. It's a very different question.
And then is seen as a physical entity, at least according to the canonical tradition, by his disciples after he died.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks you, do you believe that happened? And when I've seen you ask about that question, you tend to still speak in terms of the psychological and the mythological.
Exactly what Mercy said. Where's the first comment she had? Yeah, exactly what she said. No, not that one. Yeah, that his attempts to psychologize the concept of God. Exactly what Alex is saying right now.
Ask about that question, you tend to still speak in terms of the psychological and the mythological. I think the frustration is that, as you've just said,
I don't mind frustrating
right?
Christians in that regard either, because the truth of the matter is, with regard to the gospel accounts, that the mythological and the
You can ask Thomas Sheedy of Atheist for Liberty. He was in the conversation as well.
historical are inextricably cross-contaminated.
Sure.
There's no pulling out the historical Jesus, right? That's
Why? So you're saying that if a man named Jesus existed, therefore all of the other things are historically and physically true? That's not how that works, dude. That's not how that works. This is what I'm saying. You're selling me bullshit and getting mad at me for noticing.
cross-contaminated.
Sure.
There's no pulling out.
No, Ian, there is no proof of a conversation that I had at a fucking event.
The historical Jesus.
You need a timeout.
Right. That's a non-starter. And why that is, I don't know. It's very mysterious. It's very hard to understand, as are the, let's say, the accounts of the resurrection. Okay, so what do I think about that? Well, I think that denying the historical reality of Christ I think that's just a fool's errand. I don't know why anybody would bother with it.
So a man exists called Jesus. We have that much.
Now, I
agree. So again, God did say that it's okay to have slaves, and that specific rules about beating them, and whether they're Israelites, and whether the Israelite can leave, but if he wants to come back, and the wife and daughters, and the wife and children can't leave. So if he wants to leave, then he could leave. But if he wants to stay, then he could stay. God said all of that. God said all of that. So either you don't agree with God, or you think slavery is okay. Those are the two options. You can bring up the fact that Jesus said, okay, we don't believe in that anymore. Fine, but that's not what you said.
Claim that is attributed to Christ, that he is the embodiment or the incarnation, the fulfillment, let's say, of the prophet and the laws.
Yes.
I think that's true. Yeah. What does that mean? Well, I think it's in the Gospel of John. I think Gospel of John closes with a statement that something like, if all the books that were ever written were written about the gospel accounts, that wouldn't be enough books to explain what had happened.
Yeah, if all the things that Jesus did.
Yeah. And there's a truth in that. The truth is that profound religious account.
If you say so. And how about you give up all the money you have and become my slave? How about that, Taylor? I'll be a good slave master, I promise. Oh, you don't want to do that. Wonder why.
There's a truth in that. The truth is that profound religious account is bottomless. And the biblical representations are like that. There's no limit to the amount of investigation they can bear, not least because the text itself is deeply cross-referenced. So there's an innumerable number of paths through it. It's like a chessboard. And so it's inexhaustible in its interpretive space.
That's true.
And that's a problem too, because it means it's also susceptible to multiple interpretations, including potentially competing interpretations.
I think a lot of people interpret Paul, for example, the earliest New Testament source, as saying that if Jesus did not literally rise from the dead, if there was not a man who stopped breathing and
if you guys are watching Discord, please do me a favor, at least have a tab open. Thank you.
Started breathing again, then your faith is futile and you're still in your sins. That is, Christianity is undermined. Now, that means that, and Paul doesn't say sort of believing that that's false is really bad. He says, if you do not believe this proactively, then your faith is futile.
Mercy said the mental and verbal gymnastics Jordan Peterson does to tiptoe around the issue of whether he's a believer or not are disingenuous. I wish he'd just admit that he's not. I think he presumes he'd lose support. I think you're right. I think you're right. Thank you, Harley.
Problem I have with that,
if you don't proactively
Yeah.
believe that yourself, then I think when a Christian asks you, do you believe in the resurrection of Jesus? Are you a Christian? I think you must be committed to saying no, at least under that interpretation of Paul. And even if you're not sure, I mean, it's fine if I say to you, do you think that a man physically rose from the dead? And you say something like, well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, but I think it has a lot of mythological significance, or I think that maybe it happened in a different sense, or it happened in the sense that good fiction happens, then fine. But it needs to begin with that caveat of the simple sort of, historically speaking, I don't know. And
that's it. I don't know if this is real, but I follow it because it is useful, because it has good values. That is a very, very, very different thing than just in a normal conversation saying the Bible is true. God is real. I believe this. Those are very different things. And he definitely knows that. Maybe your average person is not aware of that, and that's completely understandable. But he knows better.
Then fine. But it needs to begin with that caveat of the simple sort of, historically speaking, I don't know. And I know you don't like to pull out the historical Jesus from the mythological.
That's a good objection.
I don't think he does. I mean, he when Alex just nailed him down, well, no, technically it's not something in the physical universe. But again, he doesn't make that clear. And as Mercy's saying, I think that he does that on purpose. I think he does it on purpose. Taylor said he uses debate tactics, not really mental gymnastics. People just aren't always good at debating, in my opinion. Well, again, that's true, but the issue is if you are trying to have like the purpose, I assume, call me an ass, but I assume the purpose of this conversation is for all of us watching to understand the thoughts of the people in the video. So if that's the case, then why are you purposely making that more difficult for us? If it's just that you're talking about something that's complex, that's one thing. But it seems like you're purposely, again, we talked about a little bit this with Russell Brand, where it's like the flowery language kind of, it leaves you enough wiggle room that you're not really saying anything so directly. So it's up to interpretation.
Simple sort of, historically speaking, I don't know. And I know you don't like to pull out the historical Jesus from the mythological.
That's a good objection.
But it's an important question to ask.
No, of course. It's a very good objection. So
True. But that doesn't mean he actually thinks that, as I know personally, because I asked him directly.
So I just did a seminar on the Gospels with a crew of about 8 people. And it was the same crew that walked through Exodus with me with a couple of variations. And we spent a lot of time on the resurrection accounts, for example. And of course, that was the toughest, let's say.
You're doing good, Stephanie. If Google Translate, if you need me for anything, you just let me know.
That was the toughest morsel to chew and digest. The thing about the resurrection accounts is that they're all, look, so I could say something like this, which will just annoy people, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so Plungecast, again, saying this is why I walked away from listening to Jordan. Theorizing about what the Bible says is silly. What did Jesus say? Paul said we are cool and made sure we understood what the church's purpose is to do. And so it seems like we actually are not on hugely different pages. It's just that we're using contradictory words. Why is it that we are on the opposite team of Christian and atheist if we believe almost exactly the same goddamn thing? Words matter. And there we go again. Funk Master General. He approaches the Bible like a psychologist. I mean, he is a psychologist. So, I mean, I'm not mad at him for it, but it's frustrating in general that other people don't see this, and they just see, because again, if you don't spend the time, obviously he's spent his life studying psychology and the Bible and the stories of the Bible and the psychological value of the stories. So an average person, just because you go to church and you passionately believe in God and you have a strong relationship with your whatever it is, that doesn't translate to you being able to call him out on his bullshit. Mercy Chokes said Jordan Peterson would do well to remember what Jesus said what Jesus had to say about the fence straddlers. It's better to be hot or cold. The lukewarm I will spit out of my mouth. Interesting. I tend to I tend to be a fence sitter myself sometimes. So, but that's not advertiser friendly. I'm just kind of nuanced. Taylor said, yeah, I'm Christian and I believe we're not supposed to try to pick apart like so many people do. And so this is a big thing that I'm realizing, that maybe I've been, I've never said that this wasn't the case. I've always admitted that I can only operate on my own experience. But maybe Christianity itself has changed so much from the time that I was in my militant atheist phase that I still encounter those militant Christians who are going to just knock me down a peg in their minds simply because of my beliefs. But maybe the same way that Christians think of the atheist as the militant atheist, because that's the only time that they know that it's an atheist, when they're being like, oh, God sucks, you're wrong. Maybe I'm committing the same representative heuristic fallacy. Maybe it is really, it's not just most of you who watch me, who are what I would say the good Christians. Maybe it's most of you just are, and some people are just shitty, and it doesn't need to matter. Maybe. Read. Well, there you go. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Bryson said pick it apart, so just go with it. Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. It's a holy book. It's supposed to be inspired by God. If we're not just going with it, and we're not picking it apart, then what are we doing? Shout out to Christian Packard. Welcome to the party. So we do not believe the same thing. Indeed. Taylor, I meant me as an atheist and you guys as Christians. And again, this is not the case. This doesn't have to be the case. I'm realizing this. Mercy said most Christians I've met haven't ever read the Bible in its entirety. Same. Just some of the passages, usually as dictated by their respective churches. Yep, you hear it on Sunday morning, and then you don't think about it ever again. Faith indeed has its flaws, which is why rationality, in my personal opinion, is the better way to go if we can. We all have faith in some things.
So I could say something like this, which will just annoy people, but it doesn't matter. I believe the accounts, but I have no idea what they mean.
When you say you believe the accounts, do you mean, and I hate to be sort of pedantic here, it seems pedantic, but do you mean you believe that these are things that happened such that that's a strange I know you don't
thing.
like that.
Right, but then don't use the word believe if you're not ready for that. That's how the people use the word believe. So you're getting, what does believe in mean? You're the one who fucking said it, dude. You're the one who said it. It's like, when we get there, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
The accounts, do you mean, and I hate to be sort of pedantic here, it seems pedantic, but do you mean you believe that these are...
Oh, hey, shout out to Garrett Grain in the building. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. I'd say all faith has its flaws, but blind faith definitely has its flaws, for sure. Easy question. I'm not sure. I'm trying, babe. I'm not sure. Taylor said, I only went to Christian schools. I had to constantly read the Bible as homework. Right. And so the question there is, if you went to a school that studied Christianity and Islam and Judaism and Buddhism and Jainism and the moral philosophy of Immanuel Kant and Kierkegaard and all of that stuff equally, number one, do you think that you would necessarily behave as a very different person? Or do you think that you would probably have basically the same ideas, but just because there's more information, you'd be able to pinpoint exactly what it is you believe a little bit better because of how old and incomplete the Bible is, as many texts are. No one book has all the answers to the universe. Mercy Joe said, I am a scientist, so I get it. I tend to be a bit of a fence straddler myself. I tend to be kind of double-minded. The difference is I don't run around doing Bible lectures like Jordan Peterson. Exactly. That's the point. Yeah, it's exactly. I'm so glad you're here, Mercy. I'm so glad you're here. It is absolutely counterintuitive. I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I hate to be sort of pedantic here. It seems pedantic, but do you mean you believe that these are things that happened such that that's a strange
I
know you don't
thing.
like that. Let me put it this way. If I went back in time with a Panasonic video camera and put that camera in front of the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, would the little LCD screen show a man walk out of that tomb?
What do you think he is going to say? Put a 1 in the chat if you think, yes, the LCD show is going to see a man walk out of that tomb. Or 2, he's going to say no. Or 3, he's going to say, I don't know, I wasn't there. Those are the 3 options. Which do you think he's going to say? 1, yes, 2, no, or 3, I don't know. Hey, shout out to the Funk Master General. Look at him. He knows what is good. Oh, thank you. So very, very much. Another 5 gifted memberships. Brother, that is so very much appreciated. And again, guys, make sure you join the Discord. It is very we're in there all the time. Some of you guys are already in there talking about whatever while the stream is going on. So if you are a member, you can head over there. Harley, Amber, and Marcus are in there watching this from there. They can talk to each other and they can talk shit about me, and I never know about it. Head on over. Shout out again to the Funk Master General. Yeah, so everybody is like, he's gonna say, I don't know, I wasn't there. How would I know? But what do you think everybody would expect him as a high-minded Christian? What do you think people, the average person who doesn't listen to Jordan Peterson, what do you think they would expect him to say? That is the issue. Taylor said, yeah, religion works for me, but not for everyone. It's okay for people to ask questions and believe something else. Yeah, I think that's the long and short of it. As long as, and again, I come from the context of politics and, wanting to prevent political ideas that I don't like. And so it's a matter of politics, but you're getting hung up on the fact that I have the same political position as you, but I got there from a different avenue. How is that advantageous for anybody? Christian said, why spend 30 years of your life studying something and not talk about your philosophical ideas about the thing you studied? Nobody's telling him not to talk about it. I love that he talks about it. I just wish he would do it better. If you're saying things and most people don't know what you're saying, then that's on you. They can like what you're saying, but ask the average person to sit down and watch a Jordan Peterson clip, just a 5-minute clip of him going off for that 5 minutes. And then ask them once through, ask them to reiterate the or paraphrase what it was. Unless you have somebody who is extremely smart, extremely familiar with Jordan Peterson, extremely familiar with the psychology of the stories of the Bible, they're not gonna know. So it's not about not talking. That's the opposite. I want him to talk. I am so happy that this conversation happened. But it's about how you talk. It's about how. Damn, is it were you trying to say something? They usually will censor some of those things. And if you guys, if you do send me something anywhere, a Rumble rant, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, any of those things, put something in the YouTube chat. I want to make sure I don't miss it and give you all that credit. Christian said Jordan Peterson isn't a Christian though. Oh, so now he's not a Christian. Okay, this is so paradoxical. I love you, man, but this can be a bit silly. I agree with you there. This is news to me. If Jordan Peterson is not a Christian, that is brand new to me. I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with saying you don't know, fence sitter or not. There's obviously value to what JBP is lecturing about. Agreed. Christian said, I understand everything he's saying, though. He doesn't have to pander to the intelligence depth of every person. Okay. Good for you then. I mean, all right.
Would the little LCD screen
yeah. Let's get that whole thing.
are things that I hate to happen, such that if
that's a strange
I know you don't
thing.
like that. Let me put it this way:
Yeah.
if I went back in time with a Panasonic video camera and put that camera in front of the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, would the little LCD screen show a man walk out of that tomb?
I would suspect yes.
So that to me seems like a belief in the historical event of the resurrection, or at least of Jesus leaving the tomb, which means that when somebody says, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? It doesn't seem clear to me why you're not able to just say, it would seem to me yes.
Because I have no idea what that means.
Oh, shout out to all of you getting it right. Well, I don't know what that means. Then why are you making those claims? Shout out to Zippies doing phone tech work. So I'm vaguely paying attention to I've become a banned word. Congratulations, buddy.
It would seem to me yes.
Because I have no idea what that means. And neither did the people who saw it.
So how come he can have the humility to understand, like, wait, I don't know that this happened. I'm just talking about the stories. How come he can have that? But most people will say, no, this happened.
I mean, I suppose
Look, let's approach this obliquely. Let's say
Yeah.
the miracle of the loaves and the fishes.
Yeah.
Okay, so people will say, well, do you believe that happened literally, historically? It's like, well, yes, I believe that. It's okay. Okay, what do you mean by that? That you believe that? Exactly.
Yeah.
So you tell me you're there in the way that you described.
Right.
And
What do you
what
see?
are the fish
What do you
doing
see? Yeah.
exactly? And the answer is you
Yes.
don't know. You have no notion about it at all. You have no theory about it.
Sure.
So your belief is, what's your belief exactly?
I think a Christian might say something like, my belief is that I have no idea, looking at those fish, what I would see in the process of them being converted into enough food for the 5,000 to eat. I have no idea what I would see. But I do know that what I would see is the fish end up being spread amongst the 5,000. In the same way.
Right. Even if you can't explain how, you're going to take, what was it? Two fish and a loaf of bread, whatever. Even if you can't tell how it would get from there to there, you would definitely be able to tell, oh shit, there's a bunch of fish and a lot of bread and there wasn't before.
Right.
Like if I opened up the water jar, what would I see when the water became wine? I have no idea. Does it sort of blend from one color into another? Does it suddenly snap? Does it disappear and then reappear? I don't know.
Right.
But what I do know as a Christian is that I would see something.
Christian, I agree, which is why we shouldn't base our entire, legal world on this mentality until we figure it out. Mercy said this kid is trying really hard to pin Jordan Peterson down to make him commit. It's not gonna happen. Good try though. I agree. But that and again, that's where and that is where the faith comes in. And that's the frustrating part is that I accept that. I accept that. That's where the faith comes in. Great. You have faith. You believe in that. We all have faith. We all have things that we believe in that we cannot prove is true or false. But the fact of the matter is, again, when we get to the material world that we all agree on, even if we don't have proof that we each all exist, we still operate on the idea that there is a one objective reality that and that laws apply and people all of those things are accepted in order for society to be society. And so to try to act as if and remember, this is on the Daily Wire, so this isn't back when he's just some professor who is talking about whatever he wants to talk about. This is a very specifically political thing, so much so that Candace Owens can't even have her opinions on Israel. So let's not pretend this is about just the philosophical endeavor. This is about pushing politics. I'm not saying that we can't have the philosophical discussion. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when it comes to the So exactly. When I say legality, I mean the context of is it true enough that we can base our laws on it? That's what I mean by that.
Right.
Like if I opened up the water jar, what would I see when the water became wine? I have no idea. Does it sort of blend from one color into another? Does it suddenly snap? Does it disappear and then reappear? I don't know.
Right.
But what I do know as a Christian is that I would see something at some event in which when I look at the beginning, it's water, and when I look at the end, it's wine. And I mean actually. I don't mean that Jesus turning water into wine is some kind of,
metaphor so that it actually looks the same, but when you drink in it now, no. If that's what it was, then most people have the wrong interpretation of that story.
Inextricably mythological story, and the question of whether it happened sort of doesn't matter, or maybe it happened in a meta manner, or maybe it happened in a hyper reality. I would be, as a Christian, committed to saying that it happened historically.
I'm more inclined, rather than to believe, I'm more inclined to understand. And then when I hit the limits of my understanding, I think, I don't understand that.
Okay, great. But then what you're talking about understanding is different than talking about what you know to be true. You can understand and true in the context of politics. Politics doesn't have when we say something is true, or when we say something is guilty or not guilty, it is black and white. And so again, I'm talking in the realm of American politics. If it's just about understanding, then you're not properly caveating that in your political discussions. What if Jesus just knew a guy? Maybe.
And then when I hit the limits of my understanding, I think, I don't understand that. Now, do I believe it or not believe it? I think often, especially with regards to biblical matters, let's say, I have a suspension of belief and disbelief.
Yeah, and that's fine too.
I think part of the reason that I've been able to be an effective interpreter of the biblical texts, and a relatively scientific interpreter, is because I approach the texts with respect. The same respect that I would approach a lab animal. It's like, I don't know what this is. Like, I seriously don't know. And I'm not going to come at it with axiomatic assumptions that are unquestionable. I'm going to try to see what's right in front of my eyes. I'm going to try to see what mystery reveals itself if I take this phenomenon seriously. This is one of the things that I find puzzling, for example, about Dawkins, because Dawkins,
we're all familiar with Richard Dawkins, right?
Formulated the idea of mean, which is, by the way, the same idea as archetype. It's exactly the same idea, except he just stopped. It's like,
so we're going to go back to that. Mercy, again, on point. Unfortunately, we have many people in the West that seem to believe, again, in the West, not on the right or the left, but in the West, that seem to believe that objective reality will somehow arrange itself around their particular delusions. Also, not gonna happen. I'm not saying which delusions. You know what delusions I'm referring to. She said it. And I've been saying it. So it can't just be me. Just saying. Just saying. Bryson said, I walked. If I tell you that, rely on my honesty and based on your judgment of me. Well, that's, according to Ian, that's anecdotal. That's anecdotal. I don't know if you actually walked. You have proof?
Same idea as archetype.
And actually, on that note, yes, if you tell me that you walked and I'm relying on your honesty, I have faith in your honesty. That is a reasonable faith because of all the discussions we've had. As far as I know, you have not lied to me. You have no reason to lie to me about walking. And so I have faith that you are telling me the truth. But that faith is backed up by strong evidence. All right, let's back. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who doesn't know Richard Dawkins.
Formulated the idea of mean, which is, by the way, the same idea as archetype. It's exactly the same
number
idea,
one.
except he just stopped. It's like, okay, there are memes they're selected for. Okay, selected on what basis exactly?
Yeah.
Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that Richard Dawkins coined the term meme? Do you know what year?
It's like, okay, there are memes they're selected for. Okay, selected on what basis exactly? Does that mean there's a hierarchy of memes? Are the memes more likely are the memes that are conserved more likely to be, what would you say, viable organisms? And if they're viable organisms, are they microcosms?
This is really interesting.
So a Christian said moral relativism will always fall flat on its face. Are you familiar with the idea of the moral landscape? Because I don't believe that there is any inherent morality to the universe. However, I do believe that based on our human intuitions, instincts, and rationality, that just like I use the example, the game of chess. Like, there's no rules inherent to the universe that are the rules of chess. We made that up, and we could change the rules if we want to change the rules. But the rules are the rules. So once the rules haven't been established, now there's objective moves within that rule set. And so if we have humanity agreeing that if we have the thing about chess, we did make up chess. And so we can do that with human morality, which understandable is a much, much, much bigger task. Then we can have an objective morality within a universe that is morally relativist. Did I say that right? Yeah, I said that.
Viable organisms? And if they're viable organisms, are they microcosms?
This is really interesting in terms of the survivability, because there's a point, I've spoken to Richard Dawkins, well, a number of times, but twice on my podcast. And the second time, somebody pointed out to me that there might be a point of agreement between you two that has been overlooked, which is that, I don't know if you've ever come across the evolution.
I can't imagine. I went to school for psychology, and very quickly I realized, like, I'm not cut out for this. I'm a dog trainer now. So that's as heavy as that gets. Sparky's barking too much.
Point of agreement between you two that has been overlooked, which is that, I don't know if you've ever come across the evolutionary argument against naturalism, or the argument from reason, the idea that if you're a materialist, you can't trust your reasonable faculties. So Alvin Plantinga formulated this very well, very, very geniusly, I think, in saying that if you believe that evolution by natural selection happens materially, what does natural selection select for? Survivability. So if you're a materialist, that means that the very rational faculty that you're using right now evolved not to be sensitive to truth, but to survivability.
Yes, that's right.
And if that's the case, well,
that's like if you hear the bush rustling, and you could say, well, it might be wind or it might be a tiger, but if I assume that it's the positive thing, then I'm wrong, then I'm dead. If I choose the negative thing and go the other way, and it was just the wind, no big deal.
Right now evolved not to be sensitive to truth, but to survivability.
Yes, that's right.
And if that's the case, well,
definitely.
Why do you believe in the truth of evolution? Well, because you've been rationally convinced of it. But the thing that you've just assented to,
it's bad, or you don't like it.
The belief itself has just undercut the process by which you came to that belief.
Look, there's a whole, the New England pragmatists figured this out like 1880.
Yeah, now I think this is fascinating. I think it really is just
It is.
It's exciting. It's a novel.
That's for sure. That's for sure. It's actually a point where Darwin and Newton do not come together.
How do you mean?
Well, the Darwinian definition of true and the Newtonian definition of true are not the same
here's
thing.
The thing.
That's not what truth is. There's not Newtonian truth and Darwinian truth. Like, what he's saying is that the fact that our genes select for survivability, that is truth. That in and of itself is true. Not that that's a true statement, but that in and of itself is truth. And that's a different type of truth than this is a fact that we can verify. It is true that Newton, dealt with gravity and the laws of physics. And it is true that Darwin developed the theory of evolution that had to do with survivability. But though, again, that's not what we're talking about when we say the word true, unless, as Alex said, you're going to have that huge caveat every single time you say that. That's not how people talk. Taylor said, I believe in evolution, but I believe God created humanity. We didn't evolve into humans. So what did we evolve into? If you believe in evolution, but you don't believe we evolved into humans, then what did we evolve into?
Here's the thing: you had a conversation with Sam Harris. You've had a number, but one of them, I don't think it was a live event. I think it was before that. You're talking about truth.
Yeah,
and you're
very
trying
awkward second talk I had with him. I was extremely ill.
Did any of you see that or listen to that podcast? This was probably back 20. Well, it had to be before 2016, so it probably would have been somewhere between 2013, 2014 ish. They did two very long podcasts about what is truth. And it was exactly this. And Sam Harris, as much as I, can't stand him now, when it comes to the neurology and theology and that stuff. He knows what he's talking about. And it's just this, again, mental gymnastics to try to create a new thing that fits his worldview that is overly complex. It doesn't need to be. We don't need to have two different types of truths in order for you to talk about how Newton saw the world and what Darwin saw about evolution. We don't need that. That is confusing. The point of these conversations should be to have a better, more concise understanding, not a more bloated, nebulous understanding.
Yeah,
and
you're very
trying
awkward second talk I had with him. I was extremely ill.
It was it was awkward to listen to because it felt very much like, and I remember at the time thinking, what is this Jordan Peterson talking about? Like truth is like Darwinian, truth is about like survivability. What do you mean truth is truth?
True the way an arrow flies.
Yeah, right. And now I asked Richard Dawkins about the evolutionary argument against naturalism.
Yeah.
I said, well, how can you know that what you believe is true? And he said, because believing true things makes me more likely to survive.
Hey, watch where you go with that.
I didn't catch it at the time, but I thought.
Shout out to Indie Bam. Welcome to the party. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
To myself afterwards, it was one of my commenters on Patreon actually had mentioned this. He was listening to Richard, and I said, but okay, maybe, but sometimes it's at least possible that something that's false helps you to survive. The rustling in the bushes, believing that that's a lion every time or tiger, even if it's not, that helps you to survive because that one time that it is, you're still going to run away, and it costs you nothing to run away when it's not a tiger. So,
what are we talking about? Give me some context. They're saying a lot of things. I don't know what you're referring to.
You to survive because that one time that it is, you're still going to run away, and it costs you nothing to run away when it's not a tiger. So, believing it's a tiger, even when it's not, is going to help you.
That's
to survive.
why we have a negativity bias.
Yeah, and Dawkins said, well, yeah, of course there are some circumstances where believing something false could be beneficial to survival. And I said, well, how do you know that 2 + 2 = 4 is not one of those? And it seemed as though he was just saying that believing that would not be advantageous to our survival, which might well be true. But if that's the case, then suddenly I'm listening to what you're saying about truth being more sort of Darwinian and related to survivability. And
right. So if Dawkins is going to say, well, the truth of the truth, what is truth is survivability. Now you're saying the same thing as Dawkins is. I was saying, like, you guys have this thing in common. But again, that's not what people mean when they say truth. Is it true? Do you believe in this? That is not what people believe. And if that is what you are, if that is the message that you are trying to convey, then it's on you to make sure that you're letting people know that you are using a different version of the word that we commonly understand it. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. But that's what, Peterson here is saying that you are wrong with this. That survivability is Darwinian truth. And that as the arrow flies is Newtonian truth.
What?
Huh? Shout out to Dusk Harder. Welcome to the party over on Twitch. So just because you believe something doesn't make it true.
Bingo.
Yes. And yeah, there's a difference between something being true and the truth. Exactly. I'm missing what Jordan said. Please explain. Because we're following exactly what Alex just said.
We're going to run away.
And watch where you
leaving it. What is this Jordan Peterson talking about? Like truth is like Darwinian. Truth is about like survivability. What do you mean? Truth is
true the way an arrow flies.
Yeah, right. And now I asked Richard Dawkins about the evolutionary argument against naturalism.
Yeah.
I said, well, how can you know that what you believe is true? And he said, because believing true things makes me more likely to survive.
Hey, watch where you go with that.
I didn't catch it at the time, but I thought to myself afterwards, it was one of my commenters on Patreon actually had mentioned this. He was listening to Richard, and I said, but okay.
How did we get? Where did Darwinian truth and Newtonian truth come into this? He is the one who said that.
Maybe, but sometimes it's at least possible that something that's
and again, the Sam Harris conversation. It wasn't confusing. This is precisely his point: is that truth is not just does it exist? I don't know what you mean, and that's fine in a philosophical context. But if you're just talking to somebody on the street and they say, is this true? Well, what do you mean by truth? That is disingenuous.
False helps you to survive. The rustling in the bushes, believing that that's a lion every time or a tiger, even if it's not. That helps you to survive because that one time that it is, you're still going to run away. And it costs you nothing to run away when it's not a tiger. So believing it's a tiger, even when it's not, is going to help me.
That's
survive.
why we have a negativity bias.
Yeah, and Dawkins says, well, yeah, of course there are some circumstances where believing something false could be beneficial to survival. And I said, well, how do you know that 2 + 2 = 4 is not one of those? And it seemed as though he was just saying that believing that would not be advantageous to our survival. Which
Right. And so both of them are saying the same thing, that, ooh, that's a slippery slope. And this comes up later because something that Jordan's going to say about how he knows more about what Dawkins doesn't know than Dawkins knows about what Peterson doesn't know. So he's saying you got to be careful because I can handle that. I don't think Dawkins can. Shout out to Miss Cake in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So 2 + 2 = 4 is true because humanity invented math. We invented it. We make the rules. Math is a method which we use to understand the world around us. Well, we definitely didn't invent math. That's for sure. Long before we had language, 2 + 2 still equaled 4. But welcome to the party.
he was just saying that believing that would not be advantageous to our survival, which might well be true. But if that's the case, then suddenly I'm listening to what you're saying about truth being more sort of Darwinian and related to survivability. And I think maybe you two would agree there. And then I think, well, why is it that when you sit down with Richard Dawkins, you find it difficult to have a conversation with each other? And
well, I think it's partly because we don't know each other very well.
That's
right. And so,
true.
and also there are things.
That's odd. Why would it be difficult? Do you guys know each other? Why would you not being familiar with it? I don't get that.
Because we don't know each other very well.
What does that have to do with having a nice conversation?
That's
right. And so,
true.
and also there are things he knows that I don't know. Yeah, and there are things I know that he doesn't know. Now,
this is what I was talking about.
I would say in my defense that what would you say? I'm more of aware of the things he knows that I don't know than he is of the things I know that he doesn't know. Right. So, for example, as far as I can tell, Dawkins doesn't know anything about the Jungian tradition of literary interpretation. And that actually, if you're going to talk about religion, that's actually a fatal flaw.
So again, he is saying that, yes, I agree that there's Newtonian truth and Darwinian truth, and truth is just truth. Truth isn't just, this one thing. That is his position. And Alex is saying you share that position with Richard Dawkins. And Peterson is saying, oh, whoa, Dawkins should be careful with that because that is a very big thing that will get you down a rabbit hole that I've been down. So I can make the argument, but it doesn't seem like he does. Shout out to the man of steel. Midmost Mark, welcome to the party. No, I don't think I clickbaited you at all. I think that if we are going to open up Christianity to all the people that we have and accepted all of that, and there's so few guardrails on what Christianity is, then I'll just become a secular Christian. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in afterlife. I think that Jesus was a real person, and I think he had some good ideas. So I'm a secular Christian. Welcome to the party.
Interpretation, and that actually, if you're going to talk about religion, that's actually a fatal flaw. Right. So, and, he's called me, for example, drunk on symbols. It's like, well, the imagination is a biological function and it has a structure and a purpose and it has its own logos, its own intelligible order. And if you're not aware of that order, that doesn't make me drunk on symbols. It just,
well, I mean, it hasn't changed anything about what I actually think. It's just a label. And everybody else seems to be slapping the label on themselves for whatever reason. And so, I'm not lying and saying that I believe in a God or anything, but I'm a secular Christian.
Means you don't know what you're talking about.
Now that frustration,
I do not.
That you appeal to there when you hear Richard Dawkins.
So just in case you were confused, I can see all of them. I can't understand what you're saying. So again, just if there is something, like if you're just having fun, do your thing. But if you want me to understand what you're saying, then it's got to be English. I'm just a stupid American, and all I know is English. A little bit of Spanish, but and I think Harley said she speaks French, right? So between those three languages, but that's all I could do for you.
That frustration that you appeal to there when you hear Richard Dawkins. I think Terry Eagleton said that listening to Dawkins on theology is like listening to somebody write a book about biology whose only knowledge of the subject is having once read the Great British Book of Birds. And okay, fair enough.
But that actually turns out to be a real problem. And
I'm gonna be a Teletubby. This is what I mean. Hey, if the left can do it, and the right can do it, and then like if you can't beat them, join them.
it's a problem with regards even to the meme idea, because.
But again, we have to point out how very, 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 very similar this joke is to when we're talking about the transes, because it is based on dogma.
You don't have to extend Dawkins' work very far to understand that religious story.
I do too, Christian. Every single day I pray I experience God. But he's chosen to say, fuck you to me, so that I'm just a lowly human. That's all I can do. I trust me. You think you're frustrated? Try being in my shoes.
You don't have to extend Dawkins' work very far to understand that religious stories are memes.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a hierarchy of memes, and some of them are very functional.
But then here's the thing, like that frustration that you're sort of throwing in that direction, I think people throw towards you when you say, well, religion, you don't have to look very far to see that religion is a meme. Well, without further clarification, and of course there's going to be it, you can understand why to somebody first listening, that sounds almost atheistic, or religion is a meme. No.
Yup. Well, no, of course that's not what I mean. If you're going to think that, then you must be this, that, and the other. It's not my fault that you thought that the words that we use all the time, and I use those words and what.
Right? Religion is not a true historical account of the history of the universe.
It's not a true historical account.
It's a meme. Now, when you say that the
So we all agree that religion is a meme.
resurrection of Jesus.
Well, what does it mean historically that the Spirit of God brooded upon the primordial waters? Like, what does that mean?
You tell me.
No one.
You're the biblical expert. You tell me.
No one knows.
I agree. I don't think
right.
that at least most of Genesis or parts of Genesis are supposed to be. I mean, the Bible is a library, right? It's not a book, and that means that it's going to contain different genres.
That's for sure.
And so when
and some of them are more historically accurate.
It's an anthology. A library is multiple spined books.
And some of them tilt more towards that kind of elusive. I don't mean elusive I mean ALLUSIV.
Elusive, yeah, sure.
Right? That elusive and symbolic form that characterizes Genesis 1.
So because there are different genres here, it depends on what story we're talking about. And I think that what I often observe you doing is we might talk about Christianity, and if you aren't comfortable committing to a historical ideal, you'll start talking about the Spirit moving over the face of the waters, which is obviously a much more mythological ideal. And not quite equivocating them, but moving between them too quickly and not delineating them enough. So if
100%. 100%. So I don't think that what Alex just said is that Jordan Peterson will dishonestly talk out of both sides of his mouth and purposely obfuscate whether he's talking about historical truth or mythological truth or any of those things. I don't think that is what Alex thinks. I don't think that is what Alex said. But he said that you're moving between them too quickly and not delineating. So even if it's by accident, because Jordan Peterson knows the Bible so well, then again, what do you think the average person is going to think when you say religion is a meme? They're going to think it means a joke, that it's not real. It's just an idea that and maybe you do mean that in the most clear sense, but without the delineation or without the caveat, and then adding on the moving between the two different types of truth. What are we talking about? Alex is an atheist. Yes, he was saying, if I was a Christian, this is what I would say. That's what he's saying. Shout out to Coulter Mello 2121. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. M169 said, I don't think for a moment God has said fuck you to you. You're right. He hasn't said shit to me. It's almost like the conversation between you and Stephanie. You can't understand her, but she's speaking to you. God is putting people in front of you all the time to continue an exploration of God's existence. Okay, well then, like, here we are. Then okay, God put me here. Then what's the issue? Christian said he's spot on here. This is why I don't like you. I thought you said you did like Jordan Peterson, but whatever. This is why I don't like Jordan Peterson. Many things I like, but his Jungian mind has robbed him of the beauty of the Bible. Fair enough. Taylor said secular Christianity, I believe, doesn't really belong to any church and just focusing on the teachings of Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, not solely Jesus Christ, but yeah, I love the teaching of Jesus Christ for the most part. So secular Christian. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Mercy said he straight up just said, no, I don't believe, but here's what I find valuable in these ways. Pussyfooting around the issue strikes me as false and is unhelpful in my humble opinion. Well, I agree. But, you know, I'm just a dirty atheist. Oh, wait, nope. I'm a secular conservative.
Not quite equivocating them, but moving between them too quickly and not delineating them enough. So if I asked you, you know, do you think that the Spirit moved across the face of the waters? And you said to me something like, I think it's still happening.
Right, that is what I would say.
Hey, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
It always happens. It happened at the beginning.
How so? How's it an oxymoron?
Beginning of time, and it's always happening.
When somebody says, did the Exodus story happen? Did the Jews enslaved in Egypt break free of their slavery and move to the Promised Land across the desert for 40 years?
So
did that happen?
So I mean, here's what I mean is that the nobody is you know, just straight up being like, oh, you're bad because you're an atheist. But the implication here is that there is that I'm missing something, and that shouldn't, in a political context, that shouldn't matter. I'm not trying to be a Christian. I'm not you know, I'm not trying to be a believer. And so if we're talking about the politics of this, then why does it matter if I'm a follower of Christ or not, if I already have the right political positions? Why does that matter to anybody? Shout out to Lord Shadowfrost. Welcome to the party. Another gifted membership from the Funk Master General. Welcome to the party. Punchcast said, I can't remember the verse, but there was something along the lines of too much learning has clouded your mind. I mean, there's some truth to that. What is that truth, and what does truth mean? That's precisely, as I said at the beginning of this, what this channel is about. That's what this stream is about. That's always what I'm talking about. It is always about the politics. Because as I said before, if it was not in politics, then I would have no qualms at all. But it is.
In Egypt, break free of their slavery and move to the Promised Land across the desert for 40 years. Did that happen? You have also said, of the Exodus specifically, it's still happening.
Yes.
Now, to me, that's fine.
This is a great example as well. Great example.
Did the Exodus story happen? Did the Jews enslaved in Egypt break free of their slavery and move to the Promised Land across the desert for 40 years? Did that?
Yeah, me too, except for the God part. Like, so that's why does it matter? Why does it matter? If I used to be in a bad place and I'm in a better place, and why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? I don't understand.
That happen? You have also said, of the Exodus specifically, it's still happening.
Yes.
Now, to me,
so he said. So Jordan Peterson, when asked, did the Exodus story, you know, with the Israelites, did that actually happen? He says it's still happening. So since you guys say that he's such a good arbiter of what is the value of the the value of the stories of the Bible, what does that mean? In fact, I want to hear from one of you. Come on up and tell me what the Exodus story is still happening means. Yeah, Christian, hit the link. And come on up, and you know, this is what this is about. It's about understanding, because I don't understand, and you guys are getting frustrated that I don't understand, but I don't understand. I'm doing the best I can. Maybe I'm stupid, but I don't get it. And every day I try, and it's still not good enough. I don't know what else to do. Shout out to Guam Tech. Thank you for the $5 Venmo. Let's treat our boy here. That's right. Every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Come on, lazy man. He's like, put it right in front of my face. I don't have to turn my head. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right? Wait, let me do some math.
You have also said, of the Exodus specifically, it's still happening.
Yes.
Now, to me, that's far more inappropriate than saying that the Spirit is still moving across the face of the waters, because I think what people mean there is, do you believe that these people in that time period actually did this in such a way that, for instance, might show up in an archaeological report?
Well, I think that's the simplest answer to that is probably.
Sure, and that's fine too. But
we don't know.
Right, but then,
okay, great. So if we don't know, then let's stop operating like it is a reality. So let's how should we do this? Let's bring up our boy here. I don't have that one anymore. Can we do this? Hey, shout out to Christian Packard. Welcome to the party.
Oh, hey, can you hear me? Am I too loud?
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, I can't believe you brought me up.
Absolutely.
I just want to let you know, I'm still new to this faith thing. I've experienced God in a real way, so I can't speak too forthrightly and too educated in this. I just know that I watch you consistently, and I feel your deep yearning for God, and I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't at least try and talk to you about it.
I appreciate that.
Because
a lot of people don't see it.
No, I definitely see it. I've always considered your sincerity. And I feel your frustration and your anger and your just frustration with the people's expectations of what you should be and what you're missing out on and all these things. And I think it's just like a person who has never climbed a mountain and seen the sunset can't exactly say I've experienced it. Like, I know what I'm feeling. Like, it's so real to me that I want you to climb the mountain here and see it. Yeah, but you're saying, like, I don't need to climb the mountain. I've read every book on what that mountain does. I know every dimension of that mountain. How could I not understand? Like, it's like, I haven't seen it. I'm not going to see it. So I'm not going to feel it either. No. And I think it's just the minute you let go of trying to find him and trying to fit him into a box and say, I'm only going to like God if he's this way or that way, and it goes against my ideology, I think that's the minute you'll experience him. Because that's what happened to me.
Sure. And I'm glad that, you found what it is that you're looking for. But that's not an accurate interpretation of how I see things. So I do very much believe in a spiritual realm. I just don't, I am, what I see as humble enough to say, I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to attribute truth values to what it is without knowing what that is. Mm-hmm. And so, I've experienced, remember, I've spent more years of my life as a Christian than as an atheist. And so when I was a Christian, there was
What does that mean? What does that mean to you when you say, I spent 20 years as my life as a Christian? What does that mean to you?
It means that I was brought up in the church and I believed what I was taught about the biblical teachings and Jesus and God and heaven and hell and all of that stuff.
I don't agree with that. I don't believe that's a Christian. I believe that's a person who portrays themselves as a Christian and says, I follow these ideologies and I go to church on Sunday and I've read the Bible and all these things. What Christ tells us is when we believe in him and when we surrender our life to him, we are made a new creation. We aren't just someone who professes faith. We are literally a new creation. Yes. And we
so that's what I'm saying. Is that that was my I didn't have a concept of what not believing in God would even mean. I didn't know what that could mean because my only experience was, of course, there is a God. There is, Jesus existed. We have to pray. I mean, in all sense of the word, I was a Christian. There is, I mean, unless you want to, I mean, I can only tell you what happened in my life, but that it's not something that I was just going through the motions. It was something that I genuinely believed in. And even if I wasn't somebody who had, some deep theological understanding, like you just said to yourself, you're new to this and it's more about an experience and a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm telling you that for 20 years of my life, that was my reality.
When did you experience him, though? When did you say, okay, I have a relationship with God, not the church or something? When did you know? When did he speak to you and say...
He never did.
That's what I mean.
But
That's what I mean.
I felt it. I felt what I thought was him, and now realize that there's other things that could be that.
What was that feeling? That's interesting. That's amazing, actually.
I would call it a you could call it spiritual, you could call it off you can call it awe. You could what was the profound, all these kinds of things that you experience. And I mean, I don't think for the most part the most Christians would say, yes, I've heard the voice of God. Would you disagree with that?
I don't believe half the people that say that anyway. I think you have to do like I'm going into class right now where I'm trying to understand this, and it's like
so what kind of thing would qualify to you as me being an actual Christian?
It's very profound. I'm not even sure how to put it. It's like it's almost like you can feel it on a person, like because I know so many people that proclaim that they're Christians and they don't bear the fruits of the Spirit. They don't exude the Holy Spirit. They are just professors of something that gives them comfortability. And it's not about comfortability, because true Christians, I believe, especially in the past, they would die for it. Like they didn't care how comfortable they were. And that's when you look at like places in Africa where they have nothing and they're being murdered by the dozens down there just for being Christian. And they don't care about the comfortability. They don't care about anything other than Christ. They live it because they know that they follow a living God and nothing can stop them. It's not something that we just profess. It's like something like I would lay down my life for Christ, just like he laid his life down for me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So then would you agree that most people, most people in general who profess to be Christians are not Christians? Would you agree with that statement?
Unfortunately, yes. And I think even Christ said that. In the Bible, he said, something about like, I can't recite it, I'm so sorry, but like he said basically like if you don't, your mouth is far from me and depart from me, I never knew you. Like all these people that profess their faith, but he says, depart from me, I never knew you. Like, because it's like he does. They never had a relationship with him. They just went to church. They did these things. They did the rituals. They went through the motions. And now I'm starting to really actually genuinely understand what it means to have a relationship with him. I always thought that was like ephemeral. And like, I was like, these people, it's like kind of cringe. It's like, you're going to have a relationship with him? What does that even mean? And now it's like becoming like a reality in me. And every day I'm like learning to hate sin and trying to be any bit of a service I can to other people. I would never be on this channel talking to you if I was not trying to bear fruit of the Holy Spirit, because it lives in me and I have to do right by it because he did right by me and he died for me. And I mean that with all my heart and soul, that I just love you. Not just because I'm told to love you, but because you are such a genuine person. You're extremely intelligent.
Thank you.
And I just think that if I wasn't at least declaring it and proving to you that like all these other Christians almost like put a bad taste in somebody's mouth. And they're like, how could I ever like subscribe to this? This doesn't make any sense. Like I'd rather just side with the secularists because at least they're grounded in reality. They're not believing some fantasy world, and it's like, that's true.
I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, certainly if you believe a man can become a female, that has some dogmatic belief. But so then inevitably, this has to come down to the conversation of, okay, how do you know that you know what you know? How do I, or rather, how can you verify? How can I verify that this experience that you've had not only is attributed to what you say it is, but is also the same thing that other people experience?
That's a great question. I'm not really sure. I deliberate about this all the time because we're told to go out and evangelize people. And, so many people have questions like this that it's very hard to change somebody's mind, but it's even harder to change their heart. Like you have to speak to their heart. You can't speak to their mind because their mind will give them every other reason not to. And then you'll be stuck on things like this, like, how do I know what I know? And it's like the logical parts of it, almost like you get wrapped up in the logic of it, and it robs you of the beauty of it's never ending. Like God is never ending. Like that's the point. It's like we can never wrap our mind around it. That's why people like Jordan Peterson got to obfuscate on every single thing. And it's like he's so smart that he's lost in it. He can't even land on a platform, and it's like, Christ already told you what to do. Build your life on him. He is the rock. That's what you build your life on. And that's why it's funny. You say you want to be a secular Christian because the Christian morals are something that you can ground yourself in.
Mm-hmm.
And they will lead a good life, and they'll be good for community and people and give people purpose. But the purpose is derived outside of us. We can never find that within us. It has to be derived outside of us.
So
is the thing. So I can't prove to you anything. I can just tell you.
Okay, and
It's
so that's fair. That's fair. Just because you believe in something, and just because something is true, doesn't mean you can prove it. So that's fair. But then that puts me in the position of you. If you're telling me God is this, or Christianity is this, or Jesus is this, or the Holy Spirit is this, and then somebody else is using the same Bible to say, no, actually they're wrong. It's this. It's this. It's this. It's this. And then and as many times as there are people in each denomination, there's so many different versions. How am I to know if, let's say that you believe that, okay, let me ask you, do you believe that God can answer prayers, like you reach into the universe and perform miracles?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so what if there was another Christian who you would agree is a Christian under your personal parameters, but they have the belief that actually it wasn't miracles, it was something else, and God it wasn't that God reached in and did a miracle, it was that God did something at the beginning of the universe that was the cause of it. If you're saying that God can do miracles, and another Christian who we all agree is a Christian is saying that God can't do miracles,
I believe there's always going to be subjectivity to it, but I believe that we would always go back to the criteria in which is the Bible. And then we would have to deliberate and almost do a scientific method to deduct who is actually following some kind of truth within the Bible. And that's where I like how Alex in this video is actually kind of challenging Jordan Peterson and saying, is this actually literal? Like, was the spirit above the water or was it not? And Jordan would be like, well, Jungian, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but what does the Bible say? Not, and then we have to test that and we have to deliberate through that theologically. And does it follow? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, let's switch that a little and say, what if it's something that is not explicit in the text, meaning it's in the Bible, but there's interpretations of it, such as, what, I mean, you can pick anything, but like what is a good Samaritan, or what is a good deed, or
absolutely.
Or what is being merciful? Let's say being merciful. That's a good one. So if, again, we're in the same position where we have you and we have another person that we all agree is a legitimate Christian. And you're saying that, well, the verse means this. And they're saying the verse, no, Christian, you're actually wrong. I know it sounds like that, but if you actually read it and you read that, this, that, and that, then it says this. But you can go back and have your own justifications. I'm in the same position. Now we don't have any further authority to go back to. There's no origin to go back to. It's just what you guys think. And you both are humans. And so then I'm putting my trust in a human and devoting my life to something that a human has well,
that's where I would
very well be wrong.
I'm not very educated on this, but what I would say, and it's not about the person, it's about the Holy Spirit. And if the Holy Spirit is actually working through someone, and if they bear the fruit of the Holy Spirit, which is, peace and patience and love and compassion, like all of these things are fruits of the Spirit. And there are many Christians out there that will proclaim many things, and then they'll be screaming at somebody in traffic, and then they're going to go give me a lecture or give me some kind of thing at the church someday. And I'm like, yo, dude, you were just being an asshole in traffic. Like, I can't, you're not bearing fruit. How can I trust your interpretation? But somebody who's genuinely like bearing the fruit of the Spirit, you can see it. It's almost like palpable. It's like in the room. Like people are drawn to these people, and they are people that are massive in their spaces. Like you're drawn to them, and they all kind of follow the same line. Like they follow the same theology and are speaking the same things. Like C.S. Lewis is a big proponent that I look towards because he's speaking truth. You can feel it in what he's saying, and all these other philosophers come past and will agree with him and say 100%, like we're following the criteria, not somebody else. We're following the Holy Spirit, not a person. We're following what they're like. Right now, I wouldn't be able to talk to you as calmly and confidently as I would if I'm taking a guess. I'm being a little egotistical right now. I think the Holy Spirit might be working through me right now because I've never been able to do anything like this ever. But it's like flowing through me. Like I'm not really speaking. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying, and I think that's how you would decipher, because you can tell the difference. There's people who use things for their own motives and their pride and their ego and the way they prop themselves up, and the mega churches that want church, like they want all the money and stuff. And then there's people that are speaking real truth and out in their communities and doing soup kitchens, and they're not doing it. They don't have a camera in somebody's face. Like they're just out there doing it. They're not letting the left hand know what the right hand does. They're actually out there. And I think that's how you would be able to tell. That's the only way I could answer that. But
okay. I mean, as these conversations are like, this is a new conversation. Obviously, there's been a long series of study of these thought experiments and stuff, and it does really go down a very long rabbit hole where you just can't have the answer. And instead of just accepting that we don't have the answer, I don't see where the need to say, well, it's God. Why can't it be something? Why can't it be just that you experienced something, and that something is very real? That something has changed the way that you live your life. That's the way. That's it's changed every. Why do we have to put a name on it? How do you know that it's not Muhammad, or you know what I mean?
Well, they're making truth claims. You know what I mean? Like Muhammad made a truth claim, and Buddha made a truth claim. But you're making a truth claim by saying that it's God. And we get to choose which truth claim we follow, which one are bearing fruit, and which ones are making a difference.
But why are we following a truth claim if we don't have the
I think we all do, no matter what. It's just the same thing as mathematics. Like we follow mathematics because we discovered it and it's true. We have to figure out this.
We can verify that independently. You
Absolutely.
Can do over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
But you're going to have to make a choice in your life.
A choice of what?
Of where you fall.
On?
Like, let's say you get to be fruitful and you get to live until your deathbed and you get to die peacefully. You're going to have time there in those last years, in those last minutes, where you're going to sit and you're going to think, what is actually going to happen? Like, and you're going to...
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
But apparently other people claim to know that there is a heaven and a hell and that the pearly gates...
You don't want to fall in a certain category. And I think if God were true, like if he was true, I think he would have one place that was true that we could look towards. It wouldn't be, everywhere, like everything maybe.
But we don't know about that. So then that one true place would be Earth and this life. I'm
sorry? What do you mean?
You said you said that God would have one true place, but we don't know if that is a true place. So the only true place we know for humans that exist is Earth.
I'm just following a contradiction. You know what I mean? Like either God exists or he doesn't exist. And if God does exist, then he has to be a certain kind of God. He can't be the God of Islam and the God of Christianity and Buddha and Hinduism all at the same time.
Right.
The law of contradiction holds. So one of those has to be true or none of them are true.
Right.
And all of those religions are false.
And so you're saying you have to choose. And I'm asking, why do you have to choose? Taylor's just saying you have to accept it. Why do I have to accept it?
Oh, no,
I don't understand.
I'm
already experiencing
I never subscribe to that. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Well, then what are we doing then? I'm confused at what we're doing.
These are just, it's so funny. It's like a preconceived notion on the soul that like you have to do this. And it's like imprinted on you. Like it's intrinsic that you have to know. Like you have to do this. And it's like, you technically don't, but you're going to live your life accordingly as if you do. Like you're going to.
No,
that's why I'm a secular Christian, because I align with Christian values. Therefore, if I'm going to put myself in a camp, I'm going to at least be a Christian secularist. Like, why wouldn't I? Because that at least makes more sense than anything. I can follow this Jesus guy, even though I don't know if he was real or not. I could follow that guy. He makes a lot of sense. But
and so, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but one last question.
I'm taking up your time. I'm taking up your time.
So, the analogy that I gave before with, let's say that God exists right off screen. That is God, and our understanding is what is on screen. And so through Christianity, we get this close to God. How do you know that there's not a way that, okay, fine, maybe we never get here, but maybe we can get here? How are you sure that
I don't know.
this is as close as we can get?
This is this
Because
is what I love about Christianity. Actually,
real quick to just
I'm
tie
so
a bow
sorry.
on it. The reason I'm asking is because I do believe that there is something out there. What y'all call God, I do believe that exists. I don't think it exists as a Yahweh or a whatever, but I do believe it can't just be this. There's too much out there that for it to just be this. Again, that is faith. I acknowledge that. But I also have faith that if it is something that exists, there is absolutely no reason to think that we wouldn't at least be able to get closer.
I can't even believe I'm going to reference Jordan Peterson here, but he always talks about the North Star, and you have to align yourself towards a star. Now, if you have too many stars that you're looking at, you're never going to get anywhere. You might not even move because you're just you don't want to move a certain direction because it might not be. But you don't have to. But the best option is to pick, because you might sit there and be stagnant and die. Like water dies when it's stagnant. When you flow, that's where water becomes alive and things flourish from it. And if you pick a northern star to gravitate towards, then you will flourish everything around you. You'll flourish within you. You'll be like Christ said. He'll be the living water for you. And if you don't pick one, and my mom struggles with this. She doesn't believe, but she believes there's a God. But she's just all over the place. She doesn't know where to go. But she also doesn't want to offend anybody. She's like, what if Hindu's right, and what if Buddhism's right? And I'm like, yeah, who knows?
Like we get along.
Who knows? But why not try? Why not try one? You won't know until you try one, because once you try one.
But I did, though. Remember, I did. This
Yeah,
is coming from somebody who never tried it.
Yeah, you did. Why not try another one? Then
because I that's what I'm saying. I did. I went through and I studied Hinduism, and maybe I didn't. Okay, you're right that I didn't practice Hinduism. I didn't practice Buddhism, but I practiced Stoicism. I practiced many different forms of the moral philosophy, and that's what I'm saying is that even and I'm not even saying throw the Bible out. I'm saying let's say the Bible gets us this far, and this much is a lot. That's good.
Yeah, but just because it didn't work for you then, why can't it work a different time in your life? Why give up on it because it didn't work?
I've never given up. I've never given up. I pray to God every single day. I pray to God every single day.
I'm kind of like getting a reference from a book I read about. I think it's Ringo Starr. It's one of the Beatles, and he was like a Catholic when he was growing up, but then he drifted away and he went to like a Buddhist camp. And he tried Buddhism, and then he went to like a Hindu place, and he was all over the place, but he was just trying everything. But then he got led right back to Christ, which is very interesting because he tried, but in the end, he gravitated back towards it. And I won't put you off and say, don't keep doing what you're doing. I'm just saying, just because it stopped working before doesn't mean that it can't regrow into something maybe even more fruitful than before, because now, let's say you did become a Christian and you actually did have an experience with God now. You would be able to evangelize people I would never in my entire life be able to evangelize, because you'd be like, listen, I was on a podcast every day saying, what the hell, God? Like, I prayed, you'd be able to reach people that I'd never be able to reach. So it might just be a thing that grows over time. And I feel like it's always in your chat. There's always like Christians in your chat. And I think somebody in the chat was actually saying it like, we're right here. God's like working. He's trying to tell you right now. Like he's trying. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know. This is your walk, and you're going to live a long life. So, it could be 30 years from now that maybe you find Christ and maybe God reaches out to you. But just as long as you keep trying and keep working, you haven't given up on God, so I don't think God's given up on you. And I think me being here and speaking this is testament and tantamount to the fact that he does love you. He does care about you. It's just not going to be in the manner in which you wish it. So you might as well just let go and let it be, and watch what happens. And that's all. I mean, I really appreciate your time. I can't even believe you brought me up.
Yeah, of course, man. And I did. The link is pinned, guys. If anybody else wants to come on up. Anything? Any parting words for the people?
Me? No.
No,
I
all right.
won't get my pride involved. You have a great night, man. I'm gonna keep watching.
All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out, and I appreciate the discussion. And you have a good one. All right. So we're right at the 2.5 hour mark. Let's just finish up this. So we got, oh, you can't see it, but we got this one little chapter. From here, we'll just throw this up and we'll see how far we go. Thank you to Christian. Let's all give a big dilly to Christian Packard. And yeah, I mean, I'm never closed. I'm again, there's a tattoo on my arm that says believe nothing except that anything is possible. Anything is possible. In my eyes, the idea that Christianity could be true is still a possible reality. But I don't think that it is advantageous to operate on incomplete information when we don't need to. Sometimes we need to. Sometimes we can, but we don't need to. So I'm open. But again, it's up to God is the one who made me the way that I am, if there is a God, and God is the one who made me not able to accept based on the actual first time reading of the Bible and understanding the other works made by God. God, people who designed were designed by God and all that stuff. So I mean, I definitely respect what Christian has to say. And shout out again to Christian. But it's very common that I'll try to be having these conversations, and like Christian said, he's newer to this, so not the it's no shade to anybody, but again, when you're constantly in this all the time, then you hear the arguments over and over, and the idea about how do I know that you are experiencing something, but it's a hallucination. Clarke's third law. What is it? Not thermodynamics. Clarke's third law of. Clarke's third law of. Is it thermodynamics? Yeah. Can you see this? Can you see it? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so that just means that if technology is great enough, let's say from an alien race, then there's no way that we would be able to determine the difference between divinity or magic and technology. And with that law, I mean that I'm going to stay in the safer position of not being wrong. And Lord, hey, shout out to Christian. Thank you so much. $10 super chat and new. Oh, come on, we gotta get you on camera for that one. Where are you? Oh, we're going backwards. There you go. Thank you so very, very, very much, brother. I do appreciate that. But yeah, what was it? Lord Shadowfrost was saying that it takes a lot of faith to be an atheist, and that is only if you are a hard atheist, claiming that no God exists, in which case I agree. That is a silly position because you can't know that. But that is not my position. My position is that I don't know. And I think none of you know either, but you just choose to put faith in something that you don't know. And I think that just like the transes, that's not a good idea, and it leads to bad things. Let's see. I'm gonna look through, see if I missed any good ones. I want to respect Christian's conversation. Seems like y'all were just talking amongst yourselves. Go and say, so what's the real point of wanting him back in the religion? Still support exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Seems like you guys were on it. And yes, Christian, life is flourishing in stagnant water. That is how we got here, but that's a whole other discussion. Des Carter said, that's like asking, do you believe in creation or the Big Bang? My question is, why does it matter? How does it help me pay the bills? So, I mean, it does absolutely come into play that, like, okay, I mean, if it doesn't really matter to my direct survival, then that's one thing. But there is also the aspect of wanting to understand the universe. I think that is a worthwhile endeavor. I don't think it needs to be like I said, I don't think it needs to be something that you need to use to operate. Should I eat ham or should I eat turkey? Well, what did God say? Like that, it doesn't matter on that way. But when you have the background of this is what I believe or this is what I don't believe, then it helps smooth out the, again, all the time. And we talk about principles and having the principles that will underlie the positions that you have. And you can tell if you have positions that are at least maybe not good or bad, but aligned with with your principles. If those principles can be mapped onto your positions. If you have a principle and it applies here, but it doesn't apply here, then that's not really a principle that you have. And so, shout out to Guamtech here. Yes, I am agnostic. I am an agnostic atheist, as I love to point out whenever I get the opportunity, that these are not mutually exclusive and they mean different things. And so in this context, Gnostic means knowledge. What do you know? And theist means a belief in a god or gods. And a is just a prefix that means without. So I am a person without knowledge or a belief in a god or gods. And that makes me an agnostic atheist. So there is, capital G Gnosticism, which is a different type of philosophy. But the position of being agnostic on something, like if I asked you, what flavor of drink am I drinking right now? Like obviously, I have my thing, but I'm mixing with some of if they pay me, they can it'll be on screen. But what flavor is this? You're all agnostic on the flavor. Until I tell you that it's pineapple lemonade with a little bit of strawberry lemonade. No longer agnostic. That's how that works. Indeed, the Big Bang in itself is a form of creation, right? But nobody's claiming that the Big Bang can perform miracles, which is a very different thing. No. So as I just explained, don't believe, don't know. Do you know whether or not there's a God? No, I don't know that. Okay, then you're agnostic. Do you believe that there's a God? Yes. Okay, then you're an agnostic theist. Do you believe that there's a God? No. Okay, then you're an agnostic theist or agnostic atheist. Do you know? Do you believe? All right, shout out again to Christian Packard. Let's dive back in here, see where we were. Oh yeah.
That's far more inappropriate than saying that the spirit is still moving across the face of the waters. Because I think what people mean there is, do you believe that these people in that time period actually did this in such a way that, for instance, might show up in
a pizza, right?
Archaeological report?
Well, I think that's the simplest answer to that is probably.
Sure, and that's fine too. But
we don't know.
But then,
there is, like, to the degree that there's been archaeological investigations into the kinds of biblical narratives that you've described, the archaeological evidence tends to fall on the side of historical accuracy in relationship to the Bible, quite surprisingly often.
Clearly, you spent more time in Exodus than probably any person I've ever met in person.
Let's shout out our boy Guamtech, talking about Jordan Peterson. He just couldn't help himself.
I gotta get on, man.
Himself. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Especially on this stream, man. Like I got a lot of stuff to say about this stream.
Please.
So I'm gonna lay off the Jordan Peterson for a moment. I may have some Jordan Peterson isms, but I'm not going to actually talk about him. So honestly, man, this whole stream in the comments section and everything, speaking with so many Christians that are in there right now, and speaking with people who aren't Christian, and everybody, all the flavors that we have in there, this is what is proving to me that what you're doing is the right thing. And I know that you've been saying, like, I'm not going to just change anything overnight or anything like that. But what I want to say is that this idea that you are trying to push some of the fruits of religion just without the religion seems to be working. and people are coming to a better understanding. People were literally coming into the comments saying, you need to come back to God.
Yep.
And then we start kind of explaining the idea, and they're like, well, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I've told you before, but like that when you were like, bro, you're right, just let it happen. I was like, oh shit. Oh shit.
Kind of
You're
takes the kind of takes the
I'm
edge
just
off,
impatient.
right?
Yeah, and so I don't know. Did you actually watch this interview?
I haven't. I've watched parts of it, little segments of it, but I haven't got to watch the entire thing. But I did find it super interesting because it's like normally it's the atheists or the wokies or even just the media trying to get Jordan Peterson to just be like, "Are you this?" And now it's an actual Christian trying to be like, "Are you this?" But that is actually one thing that's funny to me because I'm like, doesn't that kind of prove that it's kind of two sides of the same coin?
Yep. Yeah. And that's why, again, and for me personally, it's always been about my acceptance of in the whatever movement it is. I've always been a counterculture type dude. When I was when I was young, I was into punk. I was a skater, before it was cool, and it was off-putting to a lot of people. I was into metal when the craziest thing was like Blink-182. When things changed and like EDM got popular, but I'm listening to like underground grudge dubstep and just like all these little things that it's like I mean, it's different, but I think that what I got here is something. And it's always just shut down, and so I do think there is an aspect of a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and I think maybe when we went over the Christian Watson debate, and I had I was too hard on myself there. Maybe now I've kind of swung back and be like, no, I'm fucking right about everything. Fuck y'all. And pendulum swinging, and I'm trying to find it. And it seems like maybe I'm on the right track.
I think so, man. Like, and what I was saying before is that, like, some of the hardline Christians just are not going to accept it. It's just not possible. It's not in their framework whatsoever. But that's okay. Like they have plenty of people to listen to on YouTube. And honestly, even if you did bring them in, we're just going to have a bunch of, sea basses. So,
oh God,
it's just more of a headache for you. Like, how many times do you have to explain to people, I am doing this for the right reason. I just don't do it for the reason you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. And again, as it's, I don't know. I think if you, I know you were, we did an awesome show with X-Men, but something like this, if you were willing to do a full show, the fucking woke today, them. Ooh, no. But yeah, if you were down to do, I think you are a very good person to be able to understand where I'm coming from, as well as see the flaws in why my message doesn't necessarily, or why what I say doesn't necessarily send the message that I want it to send.
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not somebody who could be on one side or the other, and I will totally admit that. I am a fence sitter. Like, no problem admitting that whatsoever. So I do think, though, that the good thing about a fence sitter is that I can be more of a moderator type. I can be in the middle and saying, like, okay, hold on. Let this person say this. Let them get their thoughts out. Let's see if we can break that down a little bit and actually talk on that part of the, whatever's being talked about, the subject itself, rather than trying to go into just destroying the argument or, making the person look like an idiot. There is value in that. But I think what you're doing is more of, you're not trying to make more of a divide. You're trying to bring things together. And I do think that has more value than trying to sit there and just be like, no, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong. Completely. Yeah. Like, yes, you can bring that up, but there's other ways of asking that, of just like, how can you square this whole thing with me, because I'm not getting what you're saying.
And that's the problem is there though. I think it's more about so really quick, let's shout out our boy the Funk Master General with another $10 super chat. Gotta give Marty his due. Thank you. And so this one's on behalf of Zip. So shout out to Zip. Let's give both of them a dilly. Thank you. But yeah, I think the frustration on my end is not from trying to get people to say, no, you're wrong, God doesn't exist. Like, or anything even close to that. You know, there was somebody who was saying that sometimes when I talk about this, like this hit me like a brick wall. When somebody was like, it makes me think that he doesn't like religious people. That if you are a religious person, that you're a bad person. And so, if you're watching my content regularly, and you think that, then I have failed. I don't think there is anything. And I mean, maybe that person was just off base, but everybody, it's your feelings, they're accurate. And I think I'm very, very deliberate about not only showing that it's not about the religion itself. It's about, number one, I talk about Christianity over other religions because of the political aspect. And then whenever I bring up the dogma itself, I try to say whether it's a man in the sky or a man can transform into a female. And so I don't want to throw anyone in the bus, but do you think it would be? And again, we're talking about maybe not somebody who's watching every single stream, but familiar with who I am. Is it like, does that surprise you, or is that not surprise? Like, what? How does that hit you?
Like, I want to say that you don't do that, but I am a very regular viewer, and I know what your stances are for the most part on most of what you talk about, and I'm trying to think about that from somebody who may not watch you as often. But I can't put my finger on exactly why they would say that. Maybe it might be a little bit of the fire that you bring to your arguments, maybe, but it's not like you're sitting there completely just being like, you fucking idiot, why are you saying this? You're just a dumbass, you don't understand. Like you're trying to do a good job with it. I can't personally say that I know for sure why that person would feel that way.
And that's all I can. I think you're right about there is a certain brashness that I have. And after there was a time when I was really trying to tamper down on that, and now I'm realizing that it's just a tool that if I'm not, getting the respect that I'm putting out there, or that I can go there if I need to, like Jordan Peterson says, you need the capability of danger in order to be a good man. And I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, on the one hand, it's one person's opinion, but on the other hand, it's like, this is a person who has spent time watching me and understanding me. So I don't know. I just want to throw it out to you, but
yeah, man. I mean, honestly, like I really do think that there's a lot of value also in just being able to say, like, all right, I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. I'm trying to be reasonable here, but you do that. It's not like you don't, but it seems like some of these people are very easy to point out when they're either just trying to make an argument or not seeing where you're coming from. So it's like, there's not really anywhere else the conversation could go. And again, this also is not me saying don't bring the fire, because there are times that you're going to need it. But I really do think that idea that I was talking about, as far as like the goodwill atheist thing, like that might help with that, man. Like it might help give you a reasonable person to talk to who might be able to take that up, so that you don't have to rely on the fire.
Right. or the either rely on the fire or rely on like, okay, here guys, we're gonna talk about religion today, and like everybody's gonna get pissed off, and like it can be an understanding that we can talk about religion, and I'm not going to say anything that at least should make you feel like I don't like you because you believe in a thing that I don't believe in. I
Right.
mean, I feel like I'm pretty clear about that. That's the exact opposite of my message. But you can only do what you can do.
Right.
You want to hang out while we watch the video? Or you gotta go, or up to you?
No, I basically just wanted to hop on here and just say, awesome stream, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Like it's good. This shit's good. I'm telling you.
Thank you. I very, very, very much appreciate it. Everybody put Guam Tech in the chat. Thank you so much, brother. All right, guys. You are blessing me. You are blessing me. I really do appreciate, the honesty and the willingness to, not trying to suck up and whatever. There's definitely channels where you'll find that. Now, I don't necessarily want you guys just shitting on me for no reason. But I do think, it's important if I'm going to be, if I'm going to be somebody who does this and continues to grow and continues to take these ideas, I need to be able to see the difference between, okay, this person is just wrong. They just didn't understand. There's nothing that I could have done better, but they're just wrong. This person's not even trying to. And here's a person that is trying, but I said things wrong. And this is where I can... differentiating is rather difficult. So let's see, what did we miss here? Shout out again to our sponsors. I think I gotta update that. Give me a second. So Bryce said, I once told a Christian friend of mine that I'm God. It didn't bother him. I was just trying to get him to take it easy on the preaching crap. It was getting annoying, but he said we're all God. Well, that's a backfire. Mercy said the mind can make a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell. Paradise Lost. I like that quote. I like that one. Yeah, right. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what you were doing. But you are good. Mercy said, if there's one thing I know, it's that I'm definitely not God, not even a little bit. Believe nothing except that anything is possible. But the idea that we're all God, that is a much easier idea for me to understand than there being some theistic whatever. The idea that God is the collection of the human or even animal world soul, that it all is one, that all the atoms in the universe came from the Big Bang and we're all stardust and all that stuff. So there's not a God that exists, but that we exist is that that profound, that like I could work with that. But I don't know. And so fine, that's my version. That's what I believe as a secular Christian. I call God that which exists because we all exist. Anybody got a problem with it? Talking to each other. All right. Well, then Lord's gotta head out. Thank you for being here. You have a good one. She's like, I don't want to be God. So he's like, wait, I haven't done shrooms in a minute. I need to do shrooms again soon. All right, a couple more, and we're diving back in. Mercy said, basically, the mystical belief system that says God is the totality of everyone and everything. To include matter, one higher consciousness, people must like. That's what I'm saying. If this was what all religion was, then we could make sense of this, and we could explore the experiences and neurology that happens when you tap into God, when you have these experiences that you call a connection with God. We can materialize those, not the experience itself, but the understanding that the experience happened. The same way, you're at a concert and everybody's singing in unison, and you feel like you're part of the it's kind of an out of body experience. That is, I don't think, any different than singing hymns in church and feeling profundity. I think it's the same thing. I think there's just other ways to tap into it. And if we don't stick to one version, then I think that opens up the possibility for us to get the full effect. All right, here we go.
I mean, you spent more time in Exodus than probably any person I've ever met in person, right? Clearly the story sort of captivates you and you think it's really important and can
It's
teach us a lot, right?
Yeah,
of course.
it's infinitely deep story.
I think most people speaking to you already know that you think that, right?
Mhm.
And so when they ask you a question, when they suddenly say to you, but do you think it really happened?
Well, what the hell does that mean?
You know what that means. Did it happen means exactly as he explained before. If I put a video camera there with the LCD screen show that it happened.
Question when they suddenly say to you, but do you think it really happened?
Well, what the hell does that mean?
You must know that what they mean is what I
Yes.
was talking about a second ago, which is that sort of
What? Okay, so fine. So it's easy just to turn this
Again,
around. It's like, okay, what exactly happened in your historical account when Moses encountered the burning bush?
I don't need to know exactly what happened. What I need to know is
I'm
that,
not asking you
I know.
specifically or attacking you for that.
What I
I'm
need
just-
to know is that if I sort of went to the Egyptian desert at sort of the time that this story is alleged to have taken place in history,
Would the Israelites, would Moses be there? That is what we want to know.
would I see a mass movement of Israelites from Egypt into the Promised Land? Would I see people with feet walking through the desert, leaving foot?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Now, maybe a Tool concert or an EDM thing isn't isn't the same level of whatever you would call a religious experience. But how can you say it's not the same thing? How can you say it's not the same thing? Legitimate question.
Of Israelites from Egypt into the Promised Land? Would I see people with feet walking through the desert, leaving footprints?
Well, let's take it apart rationally. So,
but you also understand that when someone's asking that, and you like, even if you don't like the question, you must understand what someone's asking.
yes,
that.
well,
And if that's
I
the case,
understand many of the things that they're doing
then
simultaneously.
you must also understand that when you then say it's still happening,
Yeah.
people just go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, well, I would say that's not my problem.
That is your problem, motherfucker. You're the one telling the people the thing. You're the one as on the Daily Wire. You're the one on the channel. You're the one hosting the podcast. It is your problem. What have we just been talking about this whole time? That, hey, you guys aren't, maybe not you specifically, but a lot of people are not understanding my message. This is my show. This is my message. How would you react? How would you react? If I was like, well, you said something, or let's say a Christian Packer came up and he was saying something that doesn't completely align with my my ideology, the way I see the world. And I was like, well, that's not what I think. I'm just like, okay, well, what do you think? And I say, well, okay, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. That's not my problem. I mean, I guess in the sense that if you're the one that wants to know, then it is your problem. But it certainly should be a concern for you that you're saying a bunch of things. Your job is to say things, and people don't understand the things. That seems like a very big problem.
Yeah.
People just go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, well, I would say that's not my problem.
How?
But it's
How?
It becomes a problem when you understand that someone's asking a quite banal historical question.
Yeah, but you don't get to do that.
But why not?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Why not? Why not? Why can't I just ask if you know? I'm not saying we can argue that like whether everything in the Bible is true is irrelevant to whether Christianity is a good mindset to follow. Fine. But you don't get to do that? You don't get to do that? Fuck you. I can ask whatever question I want.
You understand that someone's asking a quite banal historical question.
Yeah, but you don't get to do that.
But why not?
Hey, shout out to Jimmy the Drunk. Thank you for the $0.99. Said, keep grinding. You're a great host. Well, thank you. I very, very, very much appreciate that. And so does Morty. Very, very much appreciated. Oh, I got to update the banner. I'm going to look at that right now. Thank you guys. Very, very, very much appreciated.
You understand that someone's asking a quite banal historical question.
Yeah, but you don't get to do that.
But why not?
because the stories that you're dealing with aren't banal.
I agree, but like
So you can't reduce them to something banal, even if it's what would you call it? Even if it's reassuring. This actually happened. It's well, then what do you do with the burning bush?
So
this actually happened.
One comparison I would make is between this and talking about fiction more broadly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you got it right earlier. I would say you noted that the stories in the biblical library leap across genres.
Yes.
Right. Well, we know this because sometimes they're poetry and sometimes they're song. Yeah, exactly. And so in any given story, there's going to be historical account plus mythological overlay. Yeah. And, you have to be a discriminating reader to kind of see what's different. And
okay, but were there actually people there or not? I think that's a reasonable question that I am allowed to ask. And if you can't answer that, then you don't get to claim authority on this information, on this story.
You don't just get to say, well, all the mythological symbolism is historical reality.
Yeah, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. He specifically asked about the Israelites.
It's not.
But here's the thing, for example. So like take a piece of trivial fiction like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Right. We say like, okay.
Shout out to Forrest Gump.
Did that happen? Now, I think that what you probably...
I said stupid is, stupid does. That's how you get in bed with Jenny. Person said, yeah, he's being a Pat from SNL of the past. Was that the I don't remember. Wait. I think I remember. What? Pat SNL. God damn it. Yeah, okay. Pat. I don't know. They will definitely claim that. So I cannot play that. So he says, fucking hell. Just deal with the philosophy and not use false logic and reason to push fiction. Yep. All right, where are we? Jimmy the Drunk says, sorry ruined your Black Panther party. Great movie. Mercy said, if you can't defend, explain your position, that it absolutely is a problem, and you're quite possibly a dumbass. Just my opinion. Or it's not legitimately your position. Good point there. If you can't articulate it properly, do you really even believe it? Which is exactly the argument that Peterson made about other Christians earlier in this conversation. And we've been here 3 hours, but that was 40 minutes ago for him. So it's not, or it's not legitimately your position, and you're lying on some level, maybe even to yourself. Maybe. Does Carter said there are people who will say, I'll believe it when I see it. When you first invited me on your server, I remember asking, were you alive back then to see it? This is what I meant. I only believe what I can see person. So I don't know if, definitely people do think that, but I definitely wasn't alive to see it, but that's exactly why I would not make a claim whether or not it did happen. And so, yeah, he's doing the same thing. I'm like,
Gump.
Yeah.
Right. We say like, okay, did that happen? Now, I think that what you'd probably say is something like, well, I don't think the events literally occurred, but I think that they obviously get at something that's sort of perennially true about human nature.
Exactly.
But then suppose I said to you,
right.
But hold on,
they happened. They existed as a pattern.
But there's a scene in Forrest Gump when I think he meets the president. Is it JFK at the time? I think he goes and meets John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
And so I said to you, well, is JFK?
I drank 73 Dr. Peppers.
JFK, that specific part of that story. Is it true that JFK was the president?
Right.
And you would probably just say, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then would you ask, well, did Forrest Gump meet the president? And you could say, no, that is not a real thing. That is fiction. That doesn't take away at all from the values and stories and whatever that are in Forrest Gump. That's why we can quote it, 20, 30 years later. Yeah. Zippy said, philosophy can be reinforced through fiction to articulate to the good in religion. It's fine if you think it's real. That's not the point. The point is you have to communicate the good, not wave your hands and say, whatever, don't believe, sinner. Spot on. Bryson said, here's a popular one. What about the wind? You can't see the wind, but I can feel it. That's, I mean, when people say seeing is believing, they generally mean their five senses. But again, I'm not that. I'm not. I know you're not saying that. But I think that's a silly thing because our senses are very inaccurate, and that's a good thing because it helps us survive. As we were talking about the wind in the bush, can't see the wind, but you assume that it is because it might be a tiger. Taylor said, I truly believe what I have faith. I truly believe what I have faith in, as I would believe in a fact. Wrong. You would know. You don't believe in facts. You know facts. That's why we have different words for belief and knowledge. A fact is something that you know. You can be wrong, but it's something that you know, or you claim to know. Belief or faith is the act of accepting a truth claim without sufficient evidence. That's what faith means. And so if you have the same level of a truth claim that you know, that's a fact, as you do as faith, then you don't need the faith. You have the evidence there. The only reason we need the faith is because we don't have the evidence. Otherwise, it would just be knowledge.
That specific part of that story, is it true that JFK was the president?
Exactly.
Right.
And you would probably just say, yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say anything more complicated. And even though the subject as a whole of like, is Forrest Gump true? Is Hamlet true? That's a complicated question.
Very.
But specifically, when I say, but interestingly,
You don't know?
There's this little point I want to make in this board of discussion. Do you think that JFK was actually the president? You would say yes.
Why do you think it matters to people? Like, I don't know.
That's irrelevant. That is a different conversation. That is a different conversation. Why do you care about who was the president in Forrest Gump? Is a great question. You can have that question and have that that conversation if you want. But that's a different conversation than did this happen? Well, you can't ask that. I just did, motherfucker.
Do you think that JFK was actually the president? You would say yes.
Why do you think it matters to people? Like, I don't know. These are ancient accounts. Let's
maybe
say
that's the biggest problem. Maybe that's the biggest problem that you have with people who are asking these questions.
It is.
And
like,
hopefully,
what point are you trying to make here?
So
that you don't know the things that you claim to know.
The point is, I know what the point usually is the people who are asking the question believe that true unerringly means objectively happened in history, like the things that we're seeing right now happen.
Yeah.
Not unerringly, just in normal conversation, unless you talk about a different truth. When somebody says, if I said it's true that I love Morty, is anybody confused about what that means? Do you think you can prove that with with any kind of a metric? But we understand the claim that Lutch loves Morty. Does that comport with reality? Now, there might be times when he shits in the house, shits on the carpet, and I get mad. And I mean, you could argue that in those moments I don't love him as much or whatever. But it is a true fact that I cannot prove that I love Morty. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Means objectively happened in history.
That's the part. Unerring. No, just objectively happened in history. That's it. That is what we mean. Objectively happened in history. Nobody is confused about that. Except you.
Like the things that we're seeing right now happen.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, that's not how, that's not what those stories are like.
For me,
okay, so if that's not what those stories are like, and you're not articulating why why I should still hold on to those as if they were true, then you have failed.
Some of it is, but
for a Christian,
they are expensive. But the Pure Bites, freeze dried beef liver, good stuff.
When asking you that, it's probably because for them they have an understanding of Christianity that requires believing in that kind of truth. For me,
yeah, no, and
the reason why I hope that like me,
so it's just gonna be like, yeah. Well, if you need to believe that the Bible is true to be a Christian, then you're not a real Christian.
Asking these questions will be less frustrating to you is because I have no desire for that. I don't care about that. I'm genuinely just interested in what you think.
Yeah,
and so
right. So you can't ask that if to prove this, that, the other about the Bible. But he's just saying, I just want to know, do you think the Israelites were there or not? Or do you not know?
my desire to know whether you think Exodus historically happened goes no further than a point of interest about your beliefs.
Well, so there's elements of especially the setup to the Exodus
Too late. Too late. We had that whole conversation.
story that strike me as very, very plausible historically. So, for example, the Jews before the Pharaoh of that time were under the guidance and protection of Joseph and the previous Pharaoh, and they regarded the Israelites as benefactors because Joseph had helped save the kingdom and his people were welcome. But that was forgotten. And so the new Pharaoh and the new Egyptians regard the appallingly successful Jews as destructive interlopers, and they make them slaves. It's like, well, can you believe that? Well, it happens all the time.
Sure.
It's happening right now. So it's very
sounds to me that
plausible.
in this
Well, what do you mean it's happening right now?
particular case, saying it's very plausible, it's like saying something like, well, yeah, it could have happened, I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
So
Right. You don't know. You don't know. Stop acting like you do. Now, Jordan Peterson isn't. This isn't, specifically Jordan Peterson, but that's my issue with the Christians who do behave as if they know so well that I'm a lesser person because I don't accept their reality. Like, and this is, again, what I'm realizing through, what all of you guys have said, but specifically with what Guamdek has said, that this isn't going to hold. This isn't going to hold. I think the resurgence is a bad thing for Christianity because it waters it down and it makes it meaningless. But I've had the wrong perspective on that. That is a good thing because I think Christianity, Islam, and all the Abrahamic religions need to take their place in mythology as every other wide held belief before it, and we replace it with knowledge.
I think it's very plausible. It's like saying something like, well, yeah,
Not forcefully, just by virtue of, we know this now.
it could have happened, I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
So when
I don't think anybody knows.
So when somebody asks, did the Exodus really happen? That word "really," when they say, like, if I just said,
really is the crux.
if I said, did the
Are you confused, Jordan? Are you confused when they say, did it really happen? Then why are you making it confusing?
Exodus happen? And I'd understand why you would then say, well, you've got to understand what kind of story this is. Fine.
Yes.
But then if somebody says, yeah, but did it really happen?
But
Even if
which
they're-
parts of it?
Even if they're not expressing it very well, like what they're getting at there
Is
is they're trying
very
to
clear.
emphasize the historicity. They're trying to say, yeah, but did it historically happen? Probably is what they mean by the word really there.
Right.
Yes.
But the thing is, it speaks of their, they have a problem is that Christians who ask that have a metaphysics that's not Christian.
Okay, great. But number one, Alex is not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I want to know what Jordan Peterson thinks about the historical facts of Exodus. What does that have to do with me not having Christian metaphysics? You said, why not come at it? The Bible did not happen. It's fiction. Now what? Analyze the processes and philosophy. You'd find more good in it if you just step back and not treat it as an absolute. The comment of the night. Ooh, that's a little strong. I did not water that down. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's genuine. But I think there's a disconnect. I think there's a disconnect as to why people are so confused because he's so in it and doesn't care about the veracity of the truth claims, whereas so many of us are asking, where's the evidence? We want to, and again, that's fair that he's saying, don't worry about that. Just like in Forrest Gump, it doesn't matter if it's true or not because the message is beneficial. I get that. But where's the evidence?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a non-starter, the question. It's like,
Okay, so then we don't talk about religion because you can't explain anything. End of story. I mean, come on, dude. Christian said, how would anyone know if Exodus happened, though? It was thousands of years ago. We can only presume. Right. What we do know is that the Bible led us to archaeological findings that were only found because of the Bible. And so, okay, there might be, shout out to Ian Hartman, because I think I need to do a deep dive on Scientology and Mormonism. I think how familiar are you guys? Well, I want to poll. Are you familiar? Come on. Familiar with Scientology and Mormonism? I'll say yes, no, Scientology. Or I fuck my spelling, Mormonism. So yes to both, no to both Scientology or Mormonism, barring spelling mistakes. Are you familiar with Scientology and Mormonism? Yes, you're familiar with Scientology and Mormonism. No, you're not. You're only familiar with Scientology, or you're only familiar with Mormonism. Because I think that if we break that down, I've talked about how I've used the atheist experience, the show that Matt Dillahunty got famous from. I think pointing out the obvious flaws in dogmatic thinking for other dogmas is going to be a much better way to show that this is a bad way of thinking. It's not about did this happen or did this. This is a bad mode of operation for your brain. That's what I think we need to do. Hey, shout out to Marjorie. Welcome to the party. Good to see you as well. Hope you had a good day at work. Miss Carter say people say it really happened, and I say prove it. Based. That's it. No, I mean, I think, why would it make, this is exactly why. Oh, because those are crazy religions, but yours is perfect, right? Yours is just totally normal. It's only the Scientologists and the Mormons that are crazy. That's exactly why we got to do that. I got to figure out how to do that properly, but we are definitely going to do that. Zippy said the Bible is a collection of local myth, stories, and lore. Word-of-mouth based stories make for a lot of nutty fudge. Bingo. Yep. Shout out to Paula McDonald. Welcome to the party. Yes, they are both cults. Recent ones within the last couple of centuries. Indeed they are. Oh yeah, Jehovah's Witness. That's another one. Well, maybe we'll do the whole thing on the tenets of being a Jehovah's Witness and a Mormon and a Scientologist, and to see that it's internally logical the same way your faith is internally logical. But it don't make no sense.
It's not Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a non-starter, the question. It's like you're asking me the question a materialist atheist would ask. And
he is a materialist atheist.
You want me to give you an answer that bolsters your faith, but the presumptions of your question are enlightenment atheistic.
Okay, so then explain why that is the wrong question and tell me what the right question is. Because you, again, are sitting up on high. Oh, that's not even how this works. Okay, I'm not the Christian. I'm not the Bible expert. Explain it then. You're so good at this. Oh, you're so dumb. Then explain it. This kind of seems like projection. It seems like, fuck, I'm caught in a corner. I don't know what the fuck to say. So I'm just going to get on my high horse.
So it's like, I don't know how to play that game.
So do you think that...
That's obvious. That is very obvious. You don't know how to play that game. Let that sit for a second.
Are enlightenment atheistic? So it's like, I don't know how to play that game.
So do you think that to be a Christian...
Ooh, Paul said, I was a raised Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, I think they are the worst because they knock on your door. Come on. I'm just kidding, but not. I'm glad that you were able to get out of that. MLC9 said, honestly, after following a court case involving Mormonism, it made me question what's so different about what I believe versus them. Joseph Smith. That's it. That's it. Joseph Smith. Dust Carter said, if you watch the YouTube channel Don McClellan, he gets into this kind of situation all the time. Yeah, I see him. I don't. Again, a lot of what I watch is for this show, so I don't get into too much religious stuff as much anymore. But definitely on TikTok, I see Don all the time. He said, "My religion is classic rock. Let's go." Yeah, right. We're both like, wait, you're good now, right? But she said she used the past tense, so it was context clues. Marcy said the left-hand path in Mormonism is super dark, and all of Scientology is the left-hand path. Yep. Paul said, as a kid, they make you go door to door preaching the good news. Oh, I know. I have 3 signs on my door. They don't just say no soliciting. They specifically say no soliciting, no religion, no salesman, no menus. No, I mean, it's like 9 different things. And sometimes they still argue. Now, of course, the last week when I accidentally gave my my delivery an extra $50, he didn't ring the doorbell. I would have loved for you to ring the doorbell there. They give me the credit, so it's all good. But oh man, I'll do that. Oh, we don't have Mormons like that around here. Thank fuck. But yeah, fuck all that. Fuck all of that. Fuck all of that. Like, and it's not even an atheist thing. Like, my neighbor, the one that, if you guys have been watching for a while, you're vaguely familiar. She gives me food. She called one time about the dog bite. That lady, her husband works overnight, so he comes home around 11 a.m. And then like it'll be right around, or I think he comes home at like 10 a.m. And so it's like right around that time when these people are out. And so he's on the edge. Like it's not number one, but it's like the first one and then me. And so I usually hope that they go the other way, because if anybody does, before I got the sign, anybody did come in the door, I'm like, do not go next door. That dude sleeps during the day and works all night. If you wake that motherfucker up, he might hurt you, which wouldn't happen, but I'm trying to help a motherfucker out. You know what I mean? Fuckmaster said it happened. Men that weren't there got their grubby fingers on it, and now here we are. Yep. I'm trying to make a shallow, zippy analysis video on traditionalism, liberalism, and neoliberalism. My opinion, traditionalism refines natural, practical processes until it peaks, then refuses to change and adapt. This means traditionalism is unable to self-analyze and evolve beyond a certain point. Yeah, agreed. It's almost like that's my whole message too. Marjorie said Mormon missionaries do come a knocking. They are called elders, and they go on missions to other states and countries. Well, keep them out of Jersey. Keep them out of Jersey. All right, let's finish up this chapter and head on over to the after party.
Answer that bolsters your faith, but the presumptions of your question are enlightenment atheistic. So it's like, I don't know how to play that game.
So
but I'm an enlightenment atheist. So are you unable to have a conversation with me because I don't have Christian meta ethics?
you think that to be a Christian, you don't need to believe in the historicity of the Exodus or the resurrection of Jesus, for example?
Well, I think those are separate issues, actually.
Okay, yeah, that's probably right as well. And interesting, you know, I spent last night. It's a bit of a time delay, so it feels like longer. But last night I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. I said, you know, I'm speaking to Jordan Peterson tomorrow. I was thinking, how can I prepare for this?
I cannot wait until the day where I can say out loud, I'm speaking to Jordan Peterson tomorrow. And
we ended up, my friend Sheehan's his name, we ended up having a conversation about whether Hamlet is a real person, right? And that was probably better preparation than anything else I could have done.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So take.
No, it's not.
If somebody asks, you know, was Hamlet a real person? Sort of naively, I say, have you heard of the story of Hamlet? Oh no, is that a real person?
Right.
I would say no. However, there is a sense in which, and I'm trying to understand what you're saying here.
Yeah.
There is a sense in which there are a lot of characters, infinitely many characters that Shakespeare never wrote about.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Those characters.
So I want to say what I want to say before he says something different that's probably smarter. So the idea that is Hamlet true? That is not a complicated question. That is not an interesting question. Are the values that are espoused in the play that is Hamlet relevant to human life? Absolutely. That is not what truth means. Or at the very least, in the situation that he's giving, just a casual conversation, that is not how people use the word truth.
Seem to exist less than Hamlet does.
Yeah.
Even if Hamlet exists less than Jordan Peterson, Alex.
Based. Bryson said, I'm American. My cult is America. I said, shit. Me too. There you go. There you go.
Gonna do in the
Hamlet might
real world,
exist
right?
more
than
me
and you.
Well,
Hamlet exists more than me and you. Does he though? Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I am ready to hear it. I am ready to hear it.
Hamlet might
real world,
exist
right?
more
than
me
and you.
Well, okay. One of the things
You, but not me.
one of the things you pointed to in the analysis that you did of a talk I had with Jonathan Pajot is my somewhat tongue-in-cheek comment that God is the ultimate fictional character.
Yes.
Right, which I think is a hilarious line, by the
I mean, you ain't wrong because you made it that way, but yeah, sure.
way.
Yeah.
But
which, by the way, I think I misunderstood. Now that I've watching that back, that's the thing I say. I think I might have misunderstood. Maybe that's what you were about to tell me. I shouldn't interrupt.
Let's walk through that.
Yeah,
because people see, and this is part of this underlying materialist, atheist, enlightenment ethos. People think that fiction and fact are opposites. It's like, no, they're not.
Okay.
Not at
Yes, they are.
all. Okay, so
They can work in tandem, but they are by definition opposites.
let's use an analogy to begin with.
Please.
What's more real, things or numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now
Neither.
I'm not going to make a case for either of those positions. I'm
Okay, then we agree.
just saying that's an actual question.
Yeah.
You talk to mathematicians, they think, well, numbers are way more real than things. Things are evanescent. They disappear. They flash in and out of existence.
Well, that's not a materialistic ethos, so it doesn't even matter.
Numbers are permanent.
Yeah.
And then you could think about it biologically. It's like, well, how useful is numeracy to survival?
Yeah.
Like very, right? When you become numerate, you're powerful in a way that
But it doesn't exist. The story exists. The fact that the story exists is true. Yes. This isn't complicated, guys. Come on. Don't do this. Don't do this. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that is not what it means. That's not what the question, is Hamlet a real person, means. That's not what it means. That doesn't mean any of the things that you're saying about, oh, it's a timeless story and it's going to be here long after we exist and it informs real experiences that repeat and great. That is not what the question, is Hamlet a real person, means. Unless you already have established that you're talking about this type of truth in a lexical definition. That's not how people speak. That's not how people speak.
Yeah.
like very, right? When you become numerate, you're powerful in a way that the mere grip you have on the individual facts doesn't afford at all. So there are forms of abstraction that are clearly more real than the things from which they're abstracted, or at least as real. I would say more real because they're so powerful. Well,
So power equals real. This from the guy who hates the idea that there's no truth but power. Come on, man.
fiction is an abstraction,
Sure.
right? And so Hamlet,
An abstraction from what, Jordan? An abstraction from what? Truth? Yeah, that's why we call it fiction.
did Hamlet exist? It's like
No, he did not.
Hamlet is the pattern of character that existed in multiple people over a very long period of time.
Okay, so that means no.
And so Hamlet is an abstraction, like Raskolnikov in Crime.
No, Hamlet is not an abstraction. Hamlet is a very clear concept of a representation of a real person, but a representation of a real person. I mean, yeah. No, not clickbait at all. Not clickbait at all. Apparently, Christian doesn't mean shit. So it just means good person. I just realized I spelled it wrong. Fuck my life. Fuck my life. God damn it. Can I edit that from here? Hold on. Where was Dr. Evil Genius? He's always like, yo, you spell shit wrong. Save. God damn it. God damn it. All right, I'll do it after. No, yeah, I don't believe in God. I don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. But I operate on Christian values. So I'm a secular Christian. That's what Ayaan Hirsi Ali did, right? That's what Russell Brand did, right? Like, you know, well, no, I don't. That's not part of my my Christianity.
Very long period of time. And so Hamlet is an abstraction, like Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment. Did Raskolnikov exist? It's like,
right. And that, yeah. So what do you mean? What's your point here? I agree that, but
Raskolnikov existed in the soul of every Russian from like 1850 to 1990.
Sure.
Right. And so is it real? It's like, it's hyper real.
Yeah.
Fiction is hyper real.
It's a meta truth, as you
That's
put
right,
it in
exactly,
that podcast.
Now, is that real?
Well, when someone says, is that, if they've listened to what you've just said and understood it, then if they still ask the question, but is it real? You must understand that what they mean is like, you know,
yes.
Did Aliona Ivanovna get hit in the head with an axe?
Right.
Like, yes or no, did that happen?
Right.
And again, you could still resort to saying, you know, it happened in the heart of every Russian who's ever thought about
well,
killing
I
their
would say
mother-in-law.
no to that specific
But no,
question.
right? No is the answer. And so, and we can say no with confidence.
Nah, I disagree. I think it has to do with the values. So you can feel different, but I'm a secular Christian. If you are not a secular Christian, then you would have faith. But I don't have faith, so I am a secular Christian.
Because we know that Dostoevsky sort of thought this up.
Yeah.
With something like the Egyptians walking through the desert, we can't as confidently say something like, no, that didn't happen. But we'd have to be more humble in saying something like, I don't know. But the comparison I made in this video, I put two questions side by side. You were asked by Douglas Murray, you know,
shout out to
did Raskolnikov exist? And you say, well, I think that the events literally didn't happen, but that kind of misses something, and there's something more to talk about.
And again, that misses something, and there's something more to talk about. Agreed. There's more to talk about in a different conversation. But the conversation we're having is, did it happen? And I mean, it's going to go around in circles. You know that he's never going to be like, well, no, actually, you're right. I guess I shouldn't be confusing people with this. And even if he was going to take the position that, well, I'm smarter than everybody else, and they don't get it because they're stupid. Even if that was the case, you still are it is at the behest of your own message. If people don't understand your message, the people who are supposed to understand your message, just like I today has said, oh shit, I think I failed. I need to change, might need to change what I'm doing. I said, shit, me too. Me too. Beavis said, what's a uniquely and exclusively Christian value? I don't know. Good question. We said, I cannot come on and... Fair enough. Little Toe said, values, of course, but if you don't have faith in Jesus, then you can't really call yourself a Christian. I don't know what the fuck a secular Christian means, but it sounds silly. Are you shaming me? This is my faith. This is what I believe in. Yep. Now you get it. Now you get it. Now you get it. So Mercy said, Bryson, it does frustrate me sometimes. What are we talking about? Yeah. Frogs. What are we talking about? Frogs? What is going on with frogs? That's frustrating. People can't accept the sad reality that if voting really counted or mattered, they wouldn't allow us to do it. The way the world is a stage, it's a uniparty. Yep. That being said, I do agree. But that being said, there is, there is potential. There's potential for us to make micro changes, and I think the endeavor to do that is worthwhile, even if we cannot win and take over and make a utopia. I don't think that means that we shouldn't try to make things the best that we possibly can.
How dare you?
That's not okay. Why would you do that? Nobody's going to stop you, but that's just very un-Christ-like. You need Jesus, bro. Jeez. This is not bad. I don't know what we're talking about. But all right, let's shout out to all of our donations. We had the Blanche Cast. We had the, well, let's say him. We have Guantech with the Venmo, not letting YouTube take a goddamn thing. We had Jimmy the Drunk. Just with the $5, very, very, very much appreciated. And we had our gifted memberships. Again, all 10 of you. I see no DMs. I know not all 10 of you were already members. So send me a DM. I already see Harley, Amber, and Marcus in the after party, along with myself, that we are heading right now. So make sure you do that, because once I get on my phone, then the DMs don't come in right away. You might be stuck. Just do it right, meow. Do it right, meow. What is? I'll just because it seems mostly English. Shout out to Stephanie. And then of course, our sponsor of the stream, as always lately. God damn. Let's give him another one for that. And tease him a little bit. We'll tease him a little bit. You gotta take it. Come on, get it. Good boy, get it. Come on, get it. Yeah, good boy. There you go. Good boy, get it. Yeah, all right. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate you guys too. No end. So again, if you are a member of the channel, you can join right at this moment, guys. Just scroll right below the video, and there's that join button right here. It starts at only $2.99 a month. I don't even care if you just sign up just for a one-day thing and then do it whatever you want to do. But that is where we are headed. I want to thank you guys so very much. Thank you again to Christian and Guamtech for coming up here and adding to the show. You guys definitely gave me a lot to think about. And again, I really do appreciate every moment that you spend here. I know that there's a million other things that you could be doing. There's a million other shows that you can be watching, but you are here, and that means the world to me. Because again, guys, I really think we've got something here. I really think this is going somewhere. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Believe nothing except that anything is possible. But I think we got something. So hang on, hit that like and subscribe if you have not already done so. Once again, this is Morty, and I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense, live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And guys, I've been going live like every single day, and there's a lot to cover. So I'm not going to say every day, but I'm definitely going to be live tomorrow. I might do a members only tomorrow. But yeah, I just subscribe and ring the bell, because I just be doing it. And I always notify you in Discord. So join the Discord so you never miss a party. Thank you guys. Once again, we are out of here. Peace.